Settle in for a moment. Get comfortable. Let your shoulders drop, let your breath slow down, and imagine the world around you getting a little quieter, a little darker, like someone dimmed the lamps and shut the heavy wooden shutters against the night. Because tonight, you and I are going somewhere far from here, far from your warm bed, far from your soft pillow, far from any version of comfort you've ever known. We're going to Rome. And not the postcard version, not the glamorous marble city with well-dressed senators arguing about politics in the forum. No, we're going to the dust, the grit, the sweat, straight into the life of the people who actually held the Roman world together, the legionaries. And just so you know, you wouldn't last a day as one. But don't worry, that's not an insult. Most people today wouldn't. Honestly, most people back then wouldn't either. But that's what makes this little journey so interesting. Tonight, you're stepping into a pair of leather sandals that are definitely too stiff, a tunic that's definitely too scratchy, and a life that's absolutely nothing like the heroic stories carved into marble. So, let's take a slow breath together. In through the nose, out through the mouth. Because as soon as the sun rises over that distant Roman horizon, you're going to learn exactly what happens when an ordinary person, someone a lot like you, walks into a world built on discipline, endurance, and rules that don't bend for anyone. Let me paint the scene for you. You wake up in a tiny Roman village. It's early, too early, and the air still holds the chill of night. You stretch, rub your eyes, maybe think about what you're going to eat for breakfast. But before you can finish that thought, you hear shouting in the distance, boots hitting the ground in rhythm, metal clinking softly. And then you see them. A small group of Roman officers marching straight toward your neighborhood. You try to look casual, like you're absolutely not worried about getting recruited today, but your heartbeat betrays you. Now, depending on where you lived and what year it was, this recruitment could be anything from a stern conversation to a tap on the shoulder to someone handing you a wooden tablet and declaring, "Congratulations, citizen, you now belong to the Roman army." And that's it. Your life changes in an instant. No dramatic music, no inspirational speech, just a very busy officer telling you to follow him. And as you do, you start to realize the first truth about being a Roman legionary. It's not a calling, it's a commitment. A commitment that lasts 20 years. 20 years of marching, training, building, digging, learning, obeying, and trying very hard not to annoy the wrong person. But hey, you're here now, and you don't get to turn back. Throughout this journey, you're going to discover just how demanding this life really was. Not just in battles, we're not focusing on that today, but in the day-to-day grind that made legionaries so respected, so feared, and so absolutely exhausted. You're going to meet the Optio, the training officer, whose entire personality is intensity with eyebrows. You're going to feel the weight of the armor that somehow manages to be both heavy and uncomfortable and hotter than the sun. You're going to march until the idea of rest sounds like a myth invented by poets. And you're going to learn how strict rules and endless drills shaped Rome into a superpower. All the while, you'll be thinking one thing: how on earth did anyone survive this? But that's the beauty of this little experiment.
You're going to see the Roman world not through the eyes of emperors, generals, or legendary heroes, but through the eyes of the people who built the roads, defended the borders, pitched the tents, carried the gear, dug the ditches, and marched across continents without asking too many questions. People who woke up tired and went to sleep tired. People who ate whatever the quartermaster handed them. People who followed orders with a level of discipline we struggle to imagine today. So before your first official chapter begins, let's take in this moment. You, standing in a dusty Roman courtyard, surrounded by strangers who are about to become your contubernum, your tent mates, your meal partners, your marching companions for the next 2 decades. You feel the sun creeping higher. You hear the commanding voice of an optio barking something you don't understand. You smell the mixture of dust, sweat, oil, and leather that seems permanently attached to the Roman army. And you realize you're not prepared, not even close. But that's okay, because this is where your journey starts. Not with confidence, not with training, not with strength, but with uncertainty. And that's exactly what makes it so interesting. So settle in, relax your shoulders again, get ready to learn how this world works. The routines, the rules, the demands, the exhaustion, the pride, and the strange combination of misery and honor that shaped a legionary's life. You won't last a day, but you're going to understand exactly why. And by the end of this journey, you might even appreciate how remarkable these soldiers truly were. Now, let's step forward together. Your first real challenge is waiting. The sun rises slowly over the small Roman village, pulling long shadows across the narrow streets and clay rooftops. It is the kind of morning where everything feels like it should unfold peacefully. The kind where you expect a quiet breakfast, a slow start, and perhaps a bit of gossip from neighbors who seem to know everything before anyone tells them. You stretch, step outside, and take in the calm, cool air. For a brief moment, you feel safe. Nothing looks unusual. The countryside lies still, the fields shimmer with soft morning dew, and a group of farmers nearby are already at work. It feels like just another day, predictable and ordinary. But then you hear something you weren't prepared for. The sound begins faintly, almost like distant thunder, but sharper and far more rhythmic. Metal clinks against metal. Boots hit the ground in a steady beat, strong and synchronized. The sound travels up the road, growing clearer with each passing moment. You don't need to be told what it is. Every Roman citizen knows the sound of soldiers approaching. You turn, squint toward the main path, and see them, a small detachment of legionary officers, marching with a confidence that can only come from people who know no one will dare to stand in their way. Their armor glints under the rising sun. Their crests sway with every step. Their expressions are firm, controlled, and uninterested in the opinions of anyone around them. They look like men who have one job today, and that job involves you. A few villagers step out of their homes. Some watch silently, while others suddenly find reasons to look very busy. A mother grabs her teenage son's arm and pulls him back inside. A shopkeeper pretends to rearrange pottery jars, though he is staring directly at the soldiers. Everyone knows what this visit means. It might be routine, or it might be selective, but every man of suitable age instinctively tenses when recruitment officers appear. You try to look calm.
You casually cross your arms, straighten your posture, maybe even pretend that you have extremely important business today. But your heartbeat is a little too fast, and your face cannot quite hide the worry. The officers stop in the center of the village. The one with the highest rank, a man with a stern jaw, focused eyes, and a helmet crest that practically screams authority, steps forward and begins reading from a wooden board. He calls out the names of eligible recruits in a voice that carries across the entire village, leaving no chance for misunderstanding. Then, very clearly, he says your name. You freeze. For a moment, the world goes quiet. Even the birds seem to pause. You consider pretending you didn't hear him. You consider looking behind yourself as if there might be another person with your name. You even consider taking a single step backward and slipping into the nearest alleyway. But then the officer raises an eyebrow. Just one eyebrow. It's somehow more intimidating than a full speech. Your neighbors stare. Some feel sorry for you. Others simply watch with that better you than me expression. One older man gives you a sympathetic nod that does nothing to calm your nerves. And so you walk forward, not because you want to, but because every instinct tells you that walking is smarter than attempting anything dramatic. The officer looks you over, head to toe, assessing your shoulders, arms, height, posture, and probably your entire future potential. Then he gestures for you to join a small group of other new recruits forming nearby. You stand there, silently accepting your fate. Your life has changed, and it only took a single name on a wooden board. A young Optio, the second in command, approaches with a surprisingly energetic pace. He carries a vine staff tucked behind his arm, and although he isn't using it at the moment, the message is clear. This is someone you do not want to disappoint. He explains your immediate schedule in a tone that is firm, but annoyingly cheerful for this time of morning. You are told you'll be escorted to the nearest training camp by midday. You'll receive a temporary tunic, marching sandals, and a beginner's kit. You'll be registered, assigned, inspected, measured, recorded, evaluated, and probably shouted at 6 or 7 times before the sun sets. He says this like it's normal. Like everyone should be thrilled. Your fellow recruits exchange nervous glances. One young man looks like he might faint. Another tries very hard to look brave, but keeps fidgeting with his belt. A third one whispers something about only being here because his cousin talked too loudly in the tavern last week, which doesn't make sense, but somehow feels relatable. The option dismisses the group with a wave, telling you to prepare whatever belongings you want to bring, and to make it quick. The Legion doesn't wait, he says. The Empire doesn't slow down for anyone. You return home for the last time as a civilian. Every familiar object suddenly looks different. The stool where you eat, the clay cup you always use, the small knife your father gave you last year, the blanket your grandmother made. All these things feel like anchors to a life you're being peeled away from. Your mind races with questions. Will you be gone for years? Will you ever come back here? Will you fit into the strict machine that is the Roman army? You pick up a small bag and place only a few items inside. A simple wooden comb, a small loaf of bread, a water skin, a scrap of cloth for good luck. The officer barely allowed you enough time for this. The message is clear. The Legion provides what you need, and everything else is optional. When you return to the village square, the officers are waiting. The group of recruits has grown. Some look confused, some look resigned. A few look oddly proud. The officer leading them explains that from this moment, you aren't just villagers. You are now property of the Roman state, obligated to serve, trained to obey, and expected to march wherever Rome requires you. He says this in a straightforward, emotionless tone, not cruel, not kind, simply factual. Then he orders your group to begin walking. You follow the officers down the main road while your village fades into the distance behind you. The walk is longer than expected, mostly uphill, and your sandals aren't broken in yet. Your shoulders ache from carrying your bag. You try to keep your breathing calm, but the pace is steadier than you like. The officers don't slow for anyone. As you reach the top of a ridge, the training camp finally comes into view. Rows of tents stretch across the landscape, arranged with geometric precision. The entire area looks organized down to the last peg and rope. Smoke rises from cooking fires. You hear the distant shouting of drill instructors. Metal clangs from the blacksmith's tent. The entire scene feels alive and intimidating. The officers escort you inside, where everything is intense, loud, and overwhelmingly efficient. You're immediately separated from the others and guided through a line of soldiers who measure your height, check your posture, and assign you to a unit. A scribe records your name in a wax tablet, pressing the stylus firmly as if to say, "There is no erasing this." You receive a training tunic, which is slightly too big, and a pair of sandals that might outlive you. Then you're handed a basic practice pack, heavier than expected, and told to stand in formation with the other new recruits. And there you are, standing in a dusty yard, holding equipment you barely understand, listening to an officer explain that the rest of your day will involve marching, drills, and learning to follow orders without hesitation. You realize something in that moment, something clear and undeniable. You haven't even started training yet, and you're already tired. And this, as the officer cheerfully reminds you, is only the beginning. The training yard greets you with hard-packed dirt, the smell of sweat, and a level of shouting you could hear from several streets away. You stand in formation with the other new recruits, trying to look composed while your heartbeat thuds like a drum in your chest. Dust swirls around your ankles as the sun climbs higher, warming the back of your neck and forcing you to narrow your eyes. Everyone is waiting for something, or more accurately, someone. You don't know who yet, but the experienced legionaries moving around the yard keep glancing toward the same direction with a mixture of amusement and sympathy. That alone is enough to make you nervous. A whistle pierces the air. Every soldier snaps to attention. You turn your head slightly, and that's when you see him, the Optio. He steps out from behind the main tent with the kind of presence that makes everyone straighten up even before he speaks. He walks with a steady, purposeful stride, shoulders squared, chin raised, every movement sharp and efficient. His helmet carries the sideways crest that marks his rank, and he holds a long vine staff tucked comfortably under one arm, not aggressively, but with the ease of someone who knows how to use it, if necessary. His gaze sweeps over the group. It's not just a glance, it's an evaluation. He scans each face, each posture, each detail, measuring your potential and your weaknesses in a matter of seconds. And you can tell he sees everything. When his eyes reach you, you try to stand straighter, but it doesn't help much. He tilts his head slightly, and you get the feeling he has already identified 3 things you're doing wrong and another 4 things you will do wrong later. He stops in front of the group, plants the bottom of the vine staff firmly on the ground, and the entire yard goes silent. "Recruits," he says, his voice strong enough to carry across the camp without him needing to shout. "I am Optio Cassius. You will listen to me. You will learn from me. You will obey me. If you don't, you will wish you had." There is no bravado in his tone, just certainty. He doesn't need to raise his voice because everyone already knows he is the authority here. He walks down the line of recruits slowly, inspecting each person the same way a merchant examines expensive goods. Not with affection, with calculation. You can almost hear him thinking, too weak, too slow, not focused, decent potential, needs work, probably going to faint in the first march, maybe trainable, absolutely hopeless. When he reaches the tall recruit beside you, he stops. "Name." "Felix, sir." "Felix," the Optio repeats, tapping the vine staff lightly against his calf. "You're slouching." Felix straightens instantly, looking like he's trying to add 2 extra inches to his height through sheer willpower. "Better," the Optio says, "but you will fix that permanently. The Legion does not slouch." Felix nods frantically. The Optio moves on and stops in front of you. You feel your spine lock into place. "Name?" he asks. You answer, trying to keep your voice steady. He studies your stance, your arms, your shoulders, even your sandals. Somehow he manages to identify the fact that you put them on slightly too loosely. He squints. "You tied those in a hurry, didn't you?" Your mouth opens slightly. He's right. You thought no one would notice. "Yes, sir," you admit. He taps the staff once on the ground. "Untie them. Fix them properly." A legionary who can't secure his sandals cannot secure anything on a march. You kneel, quickly adjusting the straps, trying to hide how your fingers shake. The Optio watches in silence, not cruelly, but intently, as if your entire future depends on this small demonstration of basic competence. When you stand again, he gives a short nod that somehow feels like a small victory. He continues down the line. You hear him correcting posture, adjusting shields, pointing out crooked belts, and giving lectures about discipline. He calls out the recruit who didn't shave properly, the one whose tunic is wrinkled, and the one who brought far too many personal items. Then he stops again and turns to face the entire group. You're here because Rome needs soldiers, not excuses, he says. You may think you know what it means to fight. You do not. You may think you're strong. You are not. You may believe you can endure. You have no idea. He pauses, letting the weight of those words sink in. But you will learn, he continues. If I say march, you march. If I say stop, you stop. If I say run, you move faster than the person beside you. And if you fail, if you hesitate or complain or forget your training, you will repeat the drill until the sun sets. The recruits swallow collectively. A few look like they're already regretting ever hearing the word Legion. The Optio isn't finished. He raises the vine staff and taps it twice on the ground. Your training starts now. He orders everyone into formation and begins the process of teaching you how to stand like a legionary. It seems simple at first, but every detail matters. Your feet need to be at the correct angle. Your shoulders need to stay even. Your chin must remain level. Your arms must hang at a precise position. When you get it wrong, and you do repeatedly, the Optio adjusts your stance with the end of his staff, correcting you the way a sculptor corrects a block of marble. Then he explains the expectations. Roman soldiers don't just stand still, they stand for long periods without breaking posture. They maintain discipline under the heat, under pressure, and under the watchful eyes of officers who have absolutely no tolerance for sloppiness. Within minutes, your legs begin to ache. A bead of sweat runs down your forehead. Your back stiffens. And the Optio notices. Of course he notices. Good, he says. If you're uncomfortable, it means you're learning. He spends the next hour drilling basic formation commands. Stand. Rest. Ready. Turn. Step. He repeats each instruction until the group moves as a single unit rather than a clumsy collection of nervous villagers. You improve gradually, but every improvement feels painfully earned. By midday, the Optio has shouted more instructions than you thought a person could possibly store in their head. You've been corrected, repositioned, and re-examined more times than you can count. When the lunch horn finally sounds, you feel relief flood through your body, only to watch the Optio raise a hand. No one moves, he says, not until I dismiss you. Everyone freezes. You stand there, sweating, exhausted, waiting for permission to breathe in peace. The Optio scans the group one last time, nodding slowly. You showed effort, he says. Not enough, but enough for a beginning. And then, finally, dismissed. You almost collapse on the spot. As you walk toward the eating area, rubbing your sore shoulders, another recruit mutters under his breath, "If that's just one morning, how are we supposed to survive 20 years? You don't answer. You're not sure you can answer. Because deep down, you're wondering the same thing. The Optio has made one thing very clear today. You are entering a life ruled by discipline, efficiency, and unshakable expectations. And if this is the man responsible for shaping you into a soldier, you're going to need every ounce of strength you can find. The lunch break you've been dreaming about turns out to be shorter than you hoped. You barely finish chewing your last bite of bread when the sharp whistle echoes across the camp again. The sound slices through the noise of conversation and clattering bowls, snapping everyone back to attention. Conversations stop mid-sentence. Even the birds seem to pause. You look over your shoulder and see him, the Optio, already standing in the center of the training yard, vine staff in hand, posture perfect, expression unreadable. Somehow he looks more alert now than he did earlier, which is unsettling since you already thought he started the day at maximum intensity. You and the other recruits shuffle back into formation. Some try to stretch their legs quietly as they walk, but the Optio catches even these small attempts at comfort with a narrowing of his eyes. You freeze the moment his gaze moves in your direction. Once everyone is lined up, he begins. "All right, recruits," he announces. "Your next lesson is simple. You're going to learn how to stand." You blink. Stand? That's it? Around you, a few recruits exchange confused looks. One even lets out a quiet laugh, which immediately earns him a warning tap of the vine staff on the ground. The Optio isn't joking. Standing, he continues, is one of the most important skills a legionary must master. It is the foundation of discipline. It is the root of every formation. If you cannot stand correctly, you cannot march, you cannot hold the line, and you certainly cannot function under pressure. He walks down the line slowly, tapping his staff at each step. When you stand, he says, you stand without fidgeting, without shifting, without sighing, without leaning, without blinking too dramatically. You stand in absolute stillness, like a statue carved from stone. The recruits stiffen. You stiffen. The optio continues. When the sun is hot, you stand. When the rain begins, you stand. When the wind tries to push you off balance, you stand. And if you grow tired, he pauses. You stand anyway. A few gulps ripple through the line. To demonstrate, he positions himself directly in front of you. He adjusts your posture with efficient movements. Shoulders back, chin level, feet slightly apart, arms relaxed but firm. His corrections feel minor, but once everything is properly aligned, your muscles begin to protest almost immediately. This, he says, stepping back, is the stance you will maintain. You can already feel a dull ache creeping into your lower back. He turns and addresses everyone. Your body will complain. Ignore it. Your mind will wander. Control it. The person beside you may struggle. Do not let that weaken you. You will stand until I tell you otherwise. And with that, he gives the command. Hold position. The yard falls silent except for the distant noises of the camp. The clang of blacksmiths, the murmur of cooks, the thud of practice weapons hitting wooden posts. But here, in the training zone, not a single recruit dares move. At first, standing still feels easy enough. You've done this before in normal life, waiting in line, listening to a storyteller at the marketplace, or simply daydreaming. But those situations involved soft ground, comfortable clothing, and the freedom to shift your weight when needed. Here, every muscle feels tense. Every breath feels measured. Every second feels noticeably long. After just a few minutes, you start to feel the burn in your legs. The back of your knees tightens. Sweat forms at your hairline and trickles down your cheek. But you remain still. You focus on the rhythm of your breathing, trying to keep your body steady and your expression neutral. You hear the optio's footsteps move behind the line. He says nothing at first, but you can feel his gaze slide over each person like a weight. The silence becomes heavier, more pointed. You can almost sense him waiting for someone to flinch. Someone does. A recruit 2 places down from you shifts his foot slightly, barely half an inch. The optio's staff taps the dirt sharply. Hold your position, recruit. The recruit stiffens, his face reddening. You silently thank every Roman god you can remember that you weren't the first to slip. Minutes continue to pass. Or maybe they're hours. Time feels strange when you aren't allowed to move. You can feel your legs trembling slightly, though you try to control it. The heat reflects off the packed earth, warming your sandals and making your feet ache. Your shoulders begin to protest, and the urge to roll them becomes nearly overwhelming. But then, the optio's voice cuts through your thoughts. Good, very good. You are learning the foundation of discipline. Discomfort without panic, stillness without confusion. He walks to the front of the formation again. You stand because your enemy will not wait for you to stretch your legs. You stand because your formation depends on you. You stand because Rome does not break, and neither will you. His words are calm, but they hit with force. Stillness continues. Another droplet of sweat slides down the side of your face, and you want desperately to wipe it away, but you hold your ground. Then one recruit near the edge can't take it anymore. He exhales too loudly and shifts his weight, just a tiny movement, barely noticeable. But the Optio notices everything. He turns sharply and raises a hand. Front and center. The recruit hesitates, then steps out of formation. You moved, the Optio says. Explain. My leg cramped, sir. The Optio nods. That will happen often, so you will learn to manage it. He raises the staff slightly. Run to the far end of the yard and back, twice, then return to your position. The recruit, already exhausted, sprints across the yard. The rest of you stand silently, watching him struggle and praying that you will not be next. When he finally returns, gasping, drenched in sweat, the Optio instructs him to resume his stance without a moment of rest. And then, to everyone's surprise, the Optio says, "That goes for the rest of you as well. If one breaks discipline, all work harder." Your heart sinks. You hear several quiet groans. Half-yard run. Move. You break formation, jog halfway across the training ground, and return. It's not far, but your legs already felt like columns of sand, and now they feel even heavier. "Back into position," he shouts. You snap back into place as quickly as you can. The moment your feet settle into the stance again, your muscles protest. It feels worse than before, because now they've tasted motion and want more. But you force yourself to stillness. The Optio circles the formation once more. "Remember this feeling," he says. "It will become familiar, and in time, your body will accept it." You aren't convinced yet, but you try. Silence settles over the yard again. Long, aching minutes pass. Then longer ones. Finally, mercifully, the Optia steps forward and taps the staff twice. Rest. You nearly collapse as the tension leaves your legs. A rush of relief washes through the recruits. Some drop to one knee. Others stretch their arms, cracking shoulders that feel like rocks. You take a few deep breaths and feel the sweat cooling on your skin. But the Optio does not allow you to relax too much. "That was the first of many exercises," he says. "You endured it. Not well, but you endured it." He walks past you, adjusting his belt. "You will practice this every day. Discipline begins with control over your own body. The Legion trains you to respond even when you are tired, sore, or frustrated." He pauses. "And if you think this was difficult, wait until the marches begin." A few recruits sigh softly, and you can't blame them. Standing still for nearly an hour felt like a silent battle against your own muscles. Yet the Optio speaks with genuine confidence. "You will improve," he says, "not because you want to, but because you must. Every formation depends on unity. Every march depends on endurance, and every soldier depends on you." He dismisses the group. Your legs tremble as you walk, but there's a strange, small spark of pride inside you. You survived the first true test. Barely, but you survived it. And in the Roman army, that counts for something. The next morning starts with a whistle loud enough to wake every soldier, recruit, cook, and possibly every bird for 2 miles. You sit up in your tent, disoriented for a moment, then quickly remember where you are. A Roman training camp where sleeping in is not just discouraged, it is practically illegal. Your tent mates groan quietly as they scramble to dress, tie sandals, and make themselves look presentable before the Optio arrives. You try to move quickly, but your legs still ache from yesterday's standing drill. Every muscle in your body sends the same clear message. Please, let's not do this again. Unfortunately, the Roman army is not famous for its sympathy. You join the other recruits outside as the early morning sun rises over the camp. A thin mist hangs over the ground, and a few small fires still crackle from the kitchens. For a brief moment, the camp feels peaceful. But then you see the Optio stride into the training area, vine staff tucked beneath his arm, expression firm, posture perfect, eyes already scanning everyone. "Recruits!" he announces. "Today, you march." A few recruits inhale sharply. You exchange a look with your neighbor, a look that silently says, "How bad could it be?" You will soon learn that it is very bad. The Optio stands before the group and begins his explanation. "The Roman army moves on its feet," he says. "Battles are won by armies that arrive prepared, organized, and coordinated. You will learn to march as one body, not as individuals." He points to the heavy marching packs piled on the ground. "And you will do so under weight." Each pack looks like it contains half the camp. You are certain you see blankets, spare sandals, tools, a bit of food, a shovel, stakes for the camp walls, and maybe even a stray rock or two that someone threw in for fun. The Optio gestures for everyone to grab a pack. You lift yours and immediately feel its weight settle onto your shoulders like a determined toddler who refuses to get off. Your knees bend slightly. You straighten up and pretend you're fine. The Optio sees right through it. He steps closer, gives the strap a quick tug to make sure it's secure, then nods. "Good. Now remember this. A legionary carries his world on his back. You will get used to it." You're not convinced. Once everyone has their packs, the Optio instructs the group to form lines. 15 recruits per row. Shields to the left, spacing equal. Straight backs, eyes forward. You do your best to follow, but your pack throws you off balance. Your shield bangs against your knee, and the recruit behind you keeps muttering that he should have run away when he saw the officers enter his village. The Optio raises the staff. "March!" The group lurches forward, not quite in unison. Some move too fast, others too slow, and a few seem unsure about how feet work at all. The Optio's eyebrow twitches, which is never a good sign. "Stop," he commands. The group halts. Sort of. You stumble slightly and try to regain your footing without looking like you've lost all basic coordination. "You will march together," the Optio says, "or you will repeat this until nightfall." The idea of marching until nightfall sends a ripple of fear through the crowd. Suddenly, everyone becomes very cooperative. "Forward!" This time, the group moves better, though still far from perfect. You try to match the pace of the recruit in front of you, tuning your steps to his rhythm. The pack shifts on your shoulders with each movement, the straps rubbing against your collarbones. Dust rises with every footfall, and you can already feel the heat beginning to build as the sun climbs higher. Within minutes, your feet begin to ache. Within half an hour, they burn. But the Optio keeps the pace steady, walking alongside the formation with calm efficiency. Not fast enough to be cruel, but definitely too fast to be comfortable. "Lift your feet properly," he calls out. "This is marching, not dragging your sandals across the earth like lost sheep." A few recruits straightened their posture immediately. You try to do the same, though your legs feel like they're filled with wet clay. As the march continues, you feel sweat trickle down your back, sticking your tunic to your skin. The pack feels heavier with each step, even though you know it hasn't changed weight. Your shoulders burn and your calves beg for mercy. But the Optio does not stop. After what feels like an eternity, but is realistically maybe 40 minutes, he finally raises his staff and calls, "Halt!" You stop, breathing hard. Several recruits pant loudly. One bends forward and clutches his knees. Another wipes sweat from his forehead with a shaking hand. The Optio watches this with no expression at all. "You're struggling already?" he asks. "Good. That means you're learning what is required." He gestures toward the nearby hillside. "We march up that slope next." A soft groan rises from the formation, but the Optio ignores it. You glance at the hill, and for a moment, you suspect it might be taller than it looks. The path is rocky, uneven, and slants upward at an angle that seems personally offended by the idea of walking. "Forward!" Your legs protest immediately, but you force them to move. The slope adds a new level of difficulty. Your feet slip slightly on loose stones. You lean forward instinctively to keep your balance. The pack pulls you backward with every step, as if trying to drag you down the hill. The Optio walks beside the group, unfazed by the incline. Use your legs, recruits. Your feet should strike the ground with purpose. Keep your shoulders straight. Maintain your spacing. We are not a wandering flock. We are a Roman formation. That last line makes several recruits straighten up. Even on a hill, the idea of failing in front of this man is more terrifying than the incline itself. As the climb continues, you start to understand why marching is such a big part of the training. It's not just about moving from one place to another. It's about endurance. It's about coordination. It's about pushing through discomfort while maintaining discipline and control. It's also about learning the vital Roman rule. The army does not wait for anyone. Recruits stumble. Recruits fall behind. But the formation must hold. By the time you reach the top of the hill, your legs feel like they've turned to jelly. Your breathing is heavy. Sweat runs down your arms and face. Even the air feels hotter at this height. But the view over the training camp is breathtaking. Rows of tents, columns of marching soldiers, the distant glint of armor. A reminder of just how large and organized the Roman military machine is. "Enjoy the view," the Optio says, "because you will now march back down." A few recruits mutter in disbelief. Marching downhill is its own kind of misery. Your legs shake with every step. Your knees feel like they're being tested by the gods. The pack swings subtly with each movement, threatening to pull you forward. You try to maintain balance, but your ankles wobble in protest. When you finally reach the bottom, the Optio calls for a short break. Not a long one, just long enough for your heart rate to drop below panicked sprint. Then he addresses the group. "You did better than I expected," he says. "Not well, but better." A few recruits smile weakly. Now, he continues, we march again. This time the groan is louder, but everyone gets back into formation anyway. The Optio doesn't comment on the complaints. He simply raises his staff and gives the command. Forward! For the next hour, the pattern continues. March, stop, march again, turn left, turn right, form a column, form a line, adjust spacing, keep pace. Your body feels like it's melting, but slowly, very slowly, your movements start to coordinate with the group. You begin to understand the rhythm of marching. Your feet start to fall into a natural pattern. The pack still hurts, but you adjust how you carry it. By the time the Optio finally dismisses the formation, your legs are trembling, your back aches, and your feet feel like hot stones inside your sandals. You are drenched in sweat, dirty from dust, and thoroughly exhausted. But something unexpected surprises you. You feel proud. Tired, yes, painfully tired, but proud. You survived the march. You did not collapse. You did not give up. The Optio watches the recruits drag themselves toward the water barrels. For the first time, a faint hint of approval touches his expression. You learned something important today, he says. A legionary does not move for comfort. He moves for Rome. You drink deeply, feeling the cool water revive you. Later, as you sit down to rest your sore legs, one of your tent mates leans over and whispers, "If this was just the morning, what do you think he'll make us do this afternoon?" You stare at him, unsure whether to laugh or cry. Because if today has taught you anything, it's that the Roman army has no shortage of lessons waiting for you, and you're only beginning to understand what you signed up for. You wake up the next morning with a very clear understanding of what pain feels like. Your legs ache in places you didn't know existed. Your shoulders feel as if someone hammered them during the night. Even your arms are sore, and you weren't even using them yesterday. The Roman army has a way of reminding you that your body belongs to it now. You step out of the tent, trying to stretch without looking like you're stretching, because the Optio is already in the yard. He stands as straight as ever, perfectly awake, perfectly composed, and giving off the impression that he slept on a cloud while you slept on rocks. He doesn't start with a speech. He simply raises the vine staff and points toward the armory. Today, he says, you learn about your armor. A few recruits exchange wary looks. You have seen legionaries walking around the camp wearing armor, and they always look impressive. Shining plates, solid construction, an air of confidence that comes from knowing you are part of something powerful. But you haven't had the chance to actually touch that armor yet. And as you follow the Optio toward the armory tent, you start to wonder if perhaps you underestimated just how heavy it might be. Inside the tent, rows of armor hang from wooden racks. You see the two major types used in the legions. Lorica hamata, chainmail, made of thousands of small metal rings, flexible but dense. Lorica segmentata, the iconic segmented armor made of curved metal strips. Both look heavy, both look uncomfortable. Both look like something that might shorten your lifespan by a few inches if you dropped it on your foot. The Optio gestures to the racks. Choose the armor assigned to your unit. If you can't lift it, this will be a very short day for you. You step forward and reach for the chainmail first. It looks manageable, After all, you've seen Roman soldiers walking around in it like it's no big deal. How hard can it be? You grab it and nearly fall forward. The armor feels like someone took a fishing net, dipped it in molten metal, then asked you to wear it as a fashion statement. It is heavier than you imagined. Much heavier. Your arms strain as you try to hold it up long enough to figure out where the opening is. One recruit on your left lifts his armor only for it to flip inside out and land over his head like a very angry metallic blanket. The Optio watches silently, his expression slowly drifting toward disappointment. Another recruit on your right attempts to lift the segmented armor and immediately winces as the metal plates pinch his forearm. The Optio clears his throat. Recruits, armor is not decoration. It is protection. It will feel heavy, it will feel hot, it will feel uncomfortable, but it will save your life. Treat it with respect. He steps forward and picks up a full set of armor with one hand, not effortlessly, but with the smooth familiarity of someone who has been doing this for decades. You will learn to put it on, you will learn to move in it, and you will learn to endure it, because if you cannot function in armor, then you cannot function as a soldier. He gives a signal, and a few veteran legionaries step forward to help demonstrate. They put on their armor with practiced movements, sliding, buckling, adjusting, securing. The entire process takes less than 2 minutes. Then they stand in formation, barely shifting their weight, looking as if the armor is just another piece of clothing. You stare at them, wondering if they're even human. Once the demonstration ends, the Optio calls for the recruits to begin. This time, he doesn't give instructions. He waits for you to figure it out, because the Roman army believes in learning through failure, and failure begins almost immediately. You pull the chainmail over your head, and for a moment it gets stuck halfway. You can see nothing but darkness and metal rings. Your arms are trapped above your shoulders, flailing slightly, making you look like a confused bird wrapped in scrap iron. Eventually, with enough struggling and the help of another recruit, the armor slides into place. The weight settles on you instantly, a heavy, unyielding pressure that presses on your shoulders like a determined child sitting on them. Your back curves instinctively under the weight, and the Optio appears beside you in less than a second. "Straighten your spine," he says. "The armor is not a punishment. It is a tool. Stand tall and carry it with purpose." You try. The armor shifts, clinks, and settles unevenly. He adjusts it for you with practiced hands, tightening the straps and positioning the shoulders correctly. You feel slightly better once everything is in place. Still heavy, still warm, still strange, but manageable. Then he walks away to correct someone else who has somehow put their armor on backwards. You don't understand how that's possible, but here you are in a camp full of people proving it can be done. When all the recruits finally manage to put on their armor, the Optio gathers everyone outside. The sun is higher now, and the metal on your shoulders absorbs heat like a kupung pan. You shift uncomfortably, hoping the Optio didn't notice. He noticed. Of course he noticed. He raises his staff. "Move into formation." Everyone lines up, armor clanking with every motion. The sound of 30 recruits in mismatched armor plates is something between a thunderstorm, a tavern fight, and a blacksmith dumping a bucket of tools onto the ground. The Optio listens to this symphony of chaos with visible frustration. "Quiet your movements," he orders. "A trained legionary moves with control." If the enemy can hear you approaching from a mile away, you are not a soldier. You are an alarm bell. He doesn't give you time to process the comment. Prepare to march. A few recruits look panicked. March? In armor? Already? Yes, the Optio says, as if reading everyone's mind. Armor is not for decoration. You will march with it. You will train with it. You will live in it. He raises the staff again. Forward. You begin to march. Immediately, you feel the difference. The pack yesterday was heavy, but at least it was padded. This is different. This armor shifts when you move. It digs into your shoulders when you lean forward. The rings tug at your tunic. The whole thing seems determined to remind you of its presence every second. As the march continues, sweat begins to drip down your back. The metal grows warmer. Your breathing becomes heavier. The weight feels like it multiplies with time, settling deeper into your muscles. The Optio walks beside the group, calling out instructions. Lift your knees properly. Do not drag your feet. Maintain spacing. Control your breathing. Keep your shield arm steady. Your shield arm. You almost forgot about the shield. He signals for everyone to lift their shields into position. The moment you do, the weight triples. It feels like you are carrying a barn door made of iron, and your arm begins to shake within seconds. "Hold it steady," the Optio shouts. "A legionary does not waver." You try. Your arm burns. Your shoulders ache. Your heartbeat thumps in your ears. And then he gives another command. Jog. Jog? Jog? With armor and a shield? But before you can protest, the line begins moving faster, and you have no choice but to follow. Your legs feel heavy. Your chest tightens. Your armor bounces against your ribs with each step. Your shield threatens to slip. The Optio watches, completely calm, as if this is a pleasant walk in the countryside. "You are learning to fight exhaustion," he says. "When your body wants to stop, discipline keeps you moving." After several agonizing minutes, he finally orders everyone to halt. You stop so suddenly that your armor shifts forward, pulling your tunic halfway up your ribs. You yank it back down before the Optio can comment. Thankfully, he's busy inspecting the group. Many recruits are bent over, gasping. You try to stand straight, though your posture feels like it's being held together with string and hope. The Optio speaks slowly. Armor is not your enemy. It is a tool. You will wear it until it becomes part of you. When that happens, you will no longer feel its weight. You can barely breathe, but you appreciate the encouragement. Probably, you think. He dismisses the formation. You start to remove the armor, but your arms are trembling so much you nearly drop it. By the time you get back to the tent, strip off the armor, and sit down, you feel like you've aged 10 years. Your shoulders throb, your arms feel like overcooked noodles. Your entire body hums with exhaustion. But strangely, you also feel a tiny spark of confidence. The armor didn't defeat you. It tried, very aggressively, but you survived. And in the Roman army, surviving something for the first time counts as genuine progress. Morning arrives with the familiar sound of the Optio's whistle, slicing through the camp like a blade through cloth. You are sitting up before you even fully wake. your body instinctively snapping into motion, because at this point, your mind knows better than to delay. Every recruit in your tent moves at the same speed, slow, sore, and silently pleading with the gods for just one more hour of sleep. Outside, the air carries a cool edge, but you know it won't last. The Roman sun has a way of warming the camp faster than you can tie your sandals. You tighten the straps carefully. After the Optio's remarks on day one, no one risks sloppy sandals anymore. Then you grab your water skin, splash your face, and join the others heading toward the training yard. You expect marching drills, or perhaps another hour of standing still until your spine sends a formal complaint to Jupiter. Instead, you see racks of wooden practice swords, rudis, the trainers call them, arranged neatly in rows along the edge of the yard. Next to them stand heavier wooden poles simulating spears, and nearby lies a pile of leather training shields. You immediately regret waking up. The Optio stands beside the racks, tapping the end of his vine staff against his palm as he surveys the approaching recruits. He doesn't smile, but there is a certain brightness in his eyes, the kind of expression someone gets when they know today will be entertaining for them. "Recruits," he begins, voice carrying through the morning haze. "Your armor will protect you, but your weapons will win your battles. Today, you will learn to use them properly. You may think you know how to swing a sword. You do not. You may think you know how to throw a spear. You do not. And if you think this will be easy..." He taps the nearest wooden sword with his staff. "You are wrong." A few nervous laughs ripple through the recruits, but they die instantly when the Optio glances over. He gestures toward the racks. "Take one practice sword and one shield." You step forward and choose a sword. It looks simple. Wood, maybe 2.5 feet long, smoothed edges, lightweight design, or so you assume. The moment you lift it, your arm dips. The wooden blade is heavier than it appears, significantly heavier. It's made that way on purpose, of course. The Romans believed that training should be harder than real combat, so that actual battles feel lighter by comparison. You grip the handle, surprised by its thickness. The balance feels off compared to a metal blade. But there's no time to adjust, because the Optio signals for everyone to form a line, shields raised. You lift your shield. Your armor is still heavy. Your shoulders hurt from yesterday. This is going to be a long day. The Optio steps in front of the group and raises his own practice sword. He demonstrates the stance. Left foot forward, shield covering the torso, sword hand angled slightly backward, ready to strike. His movements are crisp, precise, and methodical, the kind of fluidity that only comes from years of repetition. "Remember this," he says. "A Roman soldier does not swing wildly. He thrusts. The gladius is not a showpiece. It is a tool of efficiency, a short, controlled motion, quick, accurate, relentless. He thrusts forward in a single motion, clean, sharp, and sudden. The recruits flinch. You flinch, even though you knew it was coming. Now you try." You take a deep breath and attempt to mimic his technique. Your foot is slightly off. Your shield dips too low. Your arm extends at a crooked angle. It is not graceful, it is not coordinated, but it is an attempt. The Optio walks down the line, correcting each recruit with swift taps of the vine staff. When he reaches you, he stops, which is never a good sign. "You're striking like you're shooing a fly," he says. "This is not a gesture. It is a command. He adjusts your footing, lifts your shield higher, angles your sword hand correctly, then steps back. Again. You thrust forward. It feels somewhat better, still awkward, but less embarrassing. Good, he says. Now do it 100 times. 100 times? Surely he's joking. He is not. He orders every recruit to perform 100 slow, controlled thrusts. The yard fills with the sound of wood slicing through air, shields shifting, recruits grunting, and the occasional clang of someone losing their grip. By the time you reach 50, your shoulder is burning. By 70, your arm feels numb. By 90, you're not even sure you're still conscious. By 100, you quietly mourn the person you were before this exercise. The Optiono mods once. Good. Now switch arms. Switch arms? You stare at him, hoping, praying that you misheard, but his face remains perfectly serious. In battle, he says, you cannot rely on one side of your body. Train both. He demonstrates again, flawlessly ambidextrous, then signals for you to repeat the entire sequence. Half the recruits look as if they might collapse. The other half look like they have already mentally left their bodies. You complete the set, though by the end, your non-dominant arm feels even worse than the first. Your shield slips slightly as your muscles tremble, and the Optio catches it immediately. Hold your shield properly, he says. Your shield is not decoration. It is the difference between returning home and not. You adjust your grip, swallowing a sigh. Then he moves on to spear training. He leads the group toward the wooden poles. These simulate the pilum, the Roman throwing spear. The Optio demonstrates how the weight shifts as you grip it near the end. He explains how a legionary throws with a strong arc, using momentum rather than brute strength. He positions himself, steps forward, and throws. The wooden pole spins through the air and strikes a practice dummy with a satisfying thud. Every recruit watches with wide eyes. The Optio retrieves the pole and tosses it to the nearest recruit. Your turn. The recruit grips the spear. He hesitates, then tries to mimic the form. He steps forward awkwardly, releasing the spear too early. It spins off course and lands in the dirt far from the target. The Optio doesn't comment. He simply points to the next recruit, then the next, and the next. When your turn comes, you grip the spear, surprised again at the weight distribution. It feels unbalanced, as if it might flip out of your hand. You take a breath, shift your stance, and throw. The spear flies, not well, but not embarrassingly poorly either. It lands a few feet from the intended target, but at least travels in the correct direction. The Optio raises an eyebrow. Acceptable, he says, for a beginner. It feels strangely like praise. After everyone has thrown several times, he orders the group to retrieve their spears and form a line again. Then he gives a command that makes several recruits groan. Practice thrusts. 200 repetitions. 200. Your arms are already shaking from the sword work. Your shoulders feel like they have melted. Your back is tired. Your hands are blistering, and your mind is desperately calculating how many days you've been in the army, too many, and how many more remain. 20 years. You thrust anyway. The Optio walks behind the line, correcting postures, adjusting grips, and occasionally tapping a recruit's back to make them straighten. Sweat drips onto the dirt. The sound of spears hitting shields echoes around the yard. You breathe through the burn, focusing on rhythm. Step, thrust, return. Step, thrust, return. By the time you complete the set, the sun is high overhead. The Optio finally calls for a break. You drop your spear on the ground, barely managing to keep your shield from falling too. Several recruits collapse onto the dirt without caring how they look. You sit down, gasping, feeling sweat cool on your skin as your pulse slowly steadies. Your arms throb with every heartbeat. Your hands sting. Your legs are trembling just from standing. And you realize something quietly shocking. Today wasn't even the hardest day so far. This is simply another layer, another piece of the massive machine that is the Roman army, another skill the legionary must master, whether he likes it or not. Your weapons will become familiar eventually. Your arms will grow stronger. Your movements will become sharper. Your strikes will become confident. But right now, you're just grateful the Optio hasn't asked you to run again. The break ends far too soon. The Optio calls the recruits back into formation. You stand, lift your shield, and prepare for whatever comes next. You're exhausted. You're sore. You're beginning to understand just how relentless this training truly is. But you're still here. And in the Roman army, that counts for something. The morning begins the same way it always seems to lately, with your entire body complaining before you even sit up. You roll your shoulders carefully, wincing at the soreness left behind from sword drills and spear practice. Your hands feel stiff, your back tight, and your arms seem to have aged 50 years overnight. Then the whistle blows, and suddenly, none of your complaints matter. You stumble out of the tent with the other recruits, trying to loosen up your joints as you go. The training yard looks the same as yesterday, dusty, bright, and full of other exhausted human beings who all appear to be questioning their life choices. But today, something new has been placed in the center of the yard. Shields. Dozens of them, stacked in neat rows like red-painted walls waiting to devour souls one recruit at a time. The Optio stands beside them, vine staff tucked under his arm as always, looking far too energetic for someone who wakes up before the sun. "Recruits," he says, "you have learned to march with weight. You have learned to hold a sword. You have learned the basics of the spear. But none of that matters if you cannot use the most important piece of equipment we give you." He taps the nearest shield with the end of his staff. This is the scutum, your shield, your protection, your partner, and on many days, the only reason you are still breathing. You glance at the shield closest to you. It's massive, almost as tall as your torso, curved outward, thick around the edges, reinforced in the middle with a solid metal boss. You knew Roman shields were big, but this one looks more like a portable wall than something a single person is supposed to carry. The Optio gestures. "Pick one." You step forward and slide your hand into the grip behind the central boss. It fits, but the moment you lift the shield, your arm dips under the weight. The shield is heavier than any wooden door you've ever carried, and significantly more awkward. The curved shape pulls your shoulder forward. Your forearm strains within seconds. A recruit beside you mutters something under his breath, something that sounds suspiciously like a prayer to every Roman god he can remember. The Optio sees the struggle and nods approvingly. Good. It should feel heavy. If it were comfortable, it would not protect you. He orders the recruits into formation, shields raised. You lift yours, or try to. Your arm trembles slightly, and you have to fight the urge to rest the shield on your thigh. The Optio's eyes scan the line, catching every mistake instantly. Shields up. Cover your torso. Keep the rounded edge angled. Do not let it rest on your leg. The scutum is held, not leaned on. You readjust your grip, feeling the strain intensify. Now, he continues, learn how to stand with it. He demonstrates the defensive stance. Left foot forward, knees slightly bent, weight centered. Shield covering your left side, overlapping with the shield beside you. He walks down the line, adjusting arms, legs, shoulders, and shield angles. When he reaches you, he lifts the edge of your shield slightly. Raise it higher, he says. The enemy will not politely aim low. You do as he says, and your arm screams in protest. Then, without warning, he strikes the top edge of your shield with his staff. The shield absorbs the blow, but the impact makes your entire arm shake. You tighten your grip instinctively. Good, he says. The scutum is strong. Trust it. He taps the recruit next to you harder than he tapped you. Hold it steady. If your shield drops in formation, you put the man beside you at risk. Everyone straightens immediately. After a few minutes of adjustments, the Optio steps back and gives another command. Forward march. You begin walking, shields raised. The weight quickly becomes unbearable. Your shoulder burns, your forearm throbs, your grip slips slightly, and you adjust, hoping the Optio doesn't see. He sees. He always sees. Shield arm steady! His voice cuts through the morning air. If your arm trembles now, what will it do after an hour? After 3 hours? After the enemy pushes against it? You grit your teeth and lift the shield higher. The march continues. Dust rises, sweat drips. Your armor sticks to your tunic. After several minutes, the Optio orders everyone to stop. Now practice turning with the shield. He demonstrates how to pivot your body while keeping the shield in front of you. It's harder than it looks. The shield pulls you off balance every time you shift. Your feet slip in the dirt. Your stance collapses twice. The optioner adjusts your footing, tapping your shin lightly. Bend your knees. The scutum is not held with your arms alone. Use your legs, your core. Strength is not enough. You must use technique. He steps back and watches silently. You try again, and this time it feels more stable. Your shield stays upright. Your feet move smoothly. For a moment, you actually feel like you might be getting the hang of it. Then, the Optio raises his staff. Testudo practice! Half the recruits groan. The other half look confused. You are both. The Optio divides everyone into groups. You join 8 others and raise your shield above your head as the Optio demonstrates. In the testudo, he explains, your shields must cover every angle. The soldiers beside you depend on your precision. You lift your shield overhead. The weight feels doubled now. Your arms shake within seconds. The sun beats down, heating the wood and metal. The Optio walks through the formation, checking for gaps. No openings, he warns. One small gap can be the end of the formation. He taps a recruit's shield. Higher. He taps another. Closer. He taps yours. Do not let it tilt. Lock your elbow. Engage your shoulder. You try to adjust, but your muscles are already shaking. Then he walks behind the formation. You hear footsteps. You hear the sound of his staff being raised. Then, whack! He strikes the top of the shield line. The shields vibrate. 2 recruits nearly drop theirs, but catch themselves. You grit your teeth and hold on. This is why you train, he says calmly, to hold when everything feels like it's collapsing. He orders another impact. Whack. Your arms feel like they might fall off. He steps back and examines the formation. Not good enough, he says. Again. You repeat the drill, then repeat it again, then again. Your shoulders burn with every second. Your forearms ache. Your grip weakens. You feel the shield slipping and force your fingers to tighten. One recruit finally loses his grip and his shield drops. The Optio appears beside him instantly. If you drop your shield, you break the formation. And if you break the formation, the entire unit suffers. He points at the rest of you. Run to the far wall and back. You run, shield still in hand, legs heavy, lungs burning. You return, gasping, only for the Optio to say, "Testudo again." You raise your shield. It feels twice as heavy as before. The drill continues until your arms shake uncontrollably. Until the shield feels fused to your bones. Until sweat runs into your eyes and your breath comes in sharp bursts. When the Optio finally calls a halt, the entire group collapses to the ground. Shields drop with loud thuds. Some recruits roll onto their backs, staring at the sky. You sit with your elbows on your knees, letting your arms hang lifelessly. The Optio stands over everyone, arms crossed. "You struggle now," he says, "because you are learning. The scutum demands strength, endurance, and discipline. But once it becomes part of you, you will understand why Rome wins battles." He taps your shield with his staff. "This," he says, "is the Legionary's promise. Protect the man beside you, and he protects you." He dismisses the group. You sit in the dirt for a long moment, feeling your heartbeat slow. Your arms buzz with fatigue. Your shoulder feels like it's made of stone. Your back aches from the weight. But under all of that, you feel something new. Respect, not just for the shield, but for the people who carried it before you. Because now you understand, the scutum isn't just equipment, it's responsibility, it's trust, it's survival. And if you want to last more than a single day in this army, you'll have to master it. If yesterday introduced you to the weight of Roman armor and the misery of holding a shield for what felt like several lifetimes, today teaches you something far more humbling. Fatigue is not an excuse in the Roman army. Fatigue is simply the default. You wake stiff, sore, and feeling as though someone replaced your bones during the night with cheap wooden sticks. The moment you shift, your limbs protest. Every muscle complains. You take a slow breath and try to stretch, but the movement only reminds you of the shield drills, spear thrusts, and the endless marching. Then comes the whistle. That familiar, relentless whistle. It cuts through the morning like a blade, leaving absolutely no room for negotiation. You drag yourself out of the tent, straighten your tunic, and join the others in the cold morning air. The sun is just beginning to rise above the distant hills. A thin, pale light hangs over the camp. Cooking fires crackle as the kitchen workers prepare breakfast. The smell of warm grain and bread floats across the yard, almost comforting. But the Optio stands waiting by the training field, vine staff tucked under his arm, posture perfect as always.
He scans the recruits with the calmness of a man who knows his day will be significantly more entertaining than yours.
"Recruits," he says, "today you learn what keeps the Legion alive when it is not fighting." He pauses. Everyone listens. You already know this won't be good. You will build camp. A few recruits blink slowly, unsure whether they heard him correctly. Build camp? Isn't the camp already here? The Optio continues as if reading your thoughts. A Roman army does not sleep without defenses. We build a camp every night. No matter the weather, the time, or the distance marched, every soldier contributes. Every soldier works. He gestures toward the open field beside the training yard. Several piles of stakes, shovels, wooden mallets, ropes, and tools have been arranged neatly. Just seeing them makes your shoulders tighten. You will build the camp walls, dig the trenches, mark the 4 gates, and erect the tents. Only when the work is done will you rest. One of the recruits mutters, "We already have a camp," before realizing, too late, that the Optio heard him. The Optio turns slowly, eyebrow raised. "You will build another one, for training." The recruit nods silently, accepting that his life is now defined by tasks no normal human being would volunteer for. The Optio claps his hands sharply. "Form groups of 8. These are your tent teams, your contubernium." You and 7 others are pushed together, forming a small cluster that will become your new working family, whether you like it or not. You size them up. 2 look reasonably strong, 1 looks entirely panicked, and another appears to be mentally preparing a farewell letter to his old life. Your group is handed tools: a shovel, a measuring rope, several wooden stakes, and a mallet that seems too heavy for what it is. Each contubarium, the Optio explains, will dig its section of the trench and set its portion of the palisade. Begin. He doesn't wait for questions. He doesn't wait for confusion. He simply turns away and begins shouting instructions at another group. You look at the ground in front of you. It is hard-packed dirt, dry from days of sun. Not exactly the soft, welcoming soil you'd hoped for. "Well," one recruit says, "we should start digging." You take the shovel and plunge it into the ground. It doesn't move. You try again, harder. It digs in slightly, but not nearly enough. Another recruit helps, pressing his weight onto the shovel with you. Together, you manage to break the surface. The dirt is stubborn, resisting every push. After several attempts, your small team begins to find a rhythm. Digging is not glamorous. Digging is not fun. Digging is also significantly more miserable when you're already exhausted from weapons drills, shield practice, and marching. But you dig, and you dig, and the trench slowly takes shape. Your arms burn, your back aches, your hands start to blister despite the calluses forming from the previous days. "You're digging too narrow," a voice says. You look up. Of course, it's the Optio. He kneels, measures the trench with his rope, shakes his head slightly, and marks the correct width with the end of his staff. "Fix it," he says simply, and moves on. Your group sighs collectively. The recruit who spoke earlier whispers, "I should have run when I had the chance." But you widen the trench anyway. The sun climbs higher. Sweat drips into your eyes. Dirt sticks to your arms and your face. Your tunic clings to your back. When the trench is finally the correct size, the Optio calls out again. "Now the palisade! Stakes in the ground!" Your group drags the wooden stakes over, long, sharp-tipped pieces of timber designed to form a defensive wall. Your task is to hammer them into the dirt at precise intervals. You take hold of the mallet. It feels heavier than it looked. You swing it downward, and the impact rattles through your arms. The stake sinks slightly, but not enough. "Harder," one of your team members says. "We need them secure." You swing again, and again, and again. Soon, your arms feel like they're filled with sand. The mallet blisters your hands. The stake barely moves at times, forcing your group to rotate who swings the tool. The Optio returns just in time to point out one stake that is leaning slightly to the right. "Straighten it," he says. "A crooked defense is no defense." You straighten it, or try to. After several adjustments, it finally aligns correctly. When your group completes the first row of stakes, you look proudly at your work, only for the Optio to say, "Good, now do the rest." There are dozens more. Around you, other contubernia struggle with the same tasks. You hear grunts, groans, occasional curses whispered just softly enough that the offshore can't hear them, and the sound of mallets striking wood over and over. By midday, the trench is complete. The palisade stands tall, a rough but effective wall. Your shoulders feel like they've been replaced with stone tablets. Your palms burn with new blisters. Your tunic is dirt-stained and soaked with sweat. But the work isn't finished. "Now, the tents," the Opto says. The tents, made of leather panels stitched together, are surprisingly heavy. Your group carries one to your designated area, unfolds it, and begins to assemble the poles and ropes. The process is clumsy. The leather sticks, folds, and refuses to cooperate. "Pull it tighter," someone says. "No, the other rope. Hold it steady. Not that way." You finally manage to raise the tent, but one corner sags. The Optio appears again, squinting at the uneven shape. "Fix the corner." Your group sighs. Fixing the corner requires lowering the entire tent. You lower it. You fix the corner. You raise it again. This time it stands better, though one rope still looks slightly crooked. You hope the Optio doesn't notice. He notices. He doesn't say anything. He just stares at the rope until one of the recruits hurriedly adjusts it. When the tent is finally set, you step back and admire the result. It looks stable. It looks functional. It looks like something 8 very tired recruits can sleep in without worrying it will fall on them. The Optio walks past and gives a short nod, a rare sign of approval. "You are learning," he says. "Without discipline, without structure, and without work, the Legion would fail. Every camp you build keeps you alive on the road. Remember this." You take a deep breath, savoring the moment of acknowledgement. Then he adds, "Now, gather your tools. We do it again." You stare at him, unsure if he's joking. He is not. You spend the next hour practicing smaller sections of the camp, learning how to mark gate positions, set internal pathways, organize the ditch lines, and prepare the fire pits. Every step has rules. Every rule has a purpose. By the time the Optio finally dismisses you, the sun is low, your clothes are soaked, and you feel like you've lived several days in a single afternoon. You collapse beside your tent with the rest of your contubernium, too tired to speak at first. Eventually, someone breaks the silence. "I used to think soldiering was all glory," he says. "Turns out it's mostly building things while exhausted." Everyone laughs. Tired, broken laughter, but laughter all the same. And as you sit there, breathing deeply, feeling the ache in every muscle, you realize something important. Fighting might be what earns the glory, but this, the digging, the building, the endless work, is what keeps the Legion alive. After days of marching, shield drills, weapons training, and building camps until your arms feel like they might detach themselves and roll away, you wake up hungry enough to consider eating your own sandal. Your stomach growls before you even sit up, reminding you that you burned more energy yesterday than your body was prepared to spare. You pull yourself out of the tent, stretch stiff muscles, tighten your belt, and shuffle toward the center of camp. Smoke rises from the small kitchen fires, drifting upward and carrying with it the faint smell of barley and coarse bread. The scent is warm, comforting, and just strong enough to make you forget how tired you are. Recruits gather near the cooking area, a simple arrangement of clay pots, iron kettles, and wooden tables manned by a few soldiers assigned to food preparation. They look far more awake than anyone else, which probably means they've been working for hours already. The Optio stands beside them with his usual composed posture, arms folded, vine staff tucked under one arm. Somehow, he looks even more alert today, as if he derives energy from the struggles of recruits. Today, he announces, you learn what fuels a legionary. He gestures toward the cooking pots with a flourish that suggests he is about to present a feast. He is not. A soldier stirs a large pot filled with something that resembles thick porridge. Another soldier cuts slices from a large loaf of coarse wheat bread, dark, dense, and shaped like a stone. Beside it sits a bowl of olives, a small pile of dried figs, and a jug of what you quickly discover is vinegar diluted with water. That's it. This is breakfast. You look at the Optio, waiting for him to reveal the main course. He does not. This, he says, tapping the edge of a pot with his staff, is your fuel. It is simple. It is sturdy. It will keep you alive. You don't doubt the last part, but you also wonder if it will keep you happy. He gestures for the first group to step forward. Recruits line up, receive their portions, and move aside. When your turn comes, you accept your wooden bowl of barley porridge. It is warm, thick, and plain. Very plain. Almost aggressively plain. You swallow a spoonful, and it tastes like someone forgot the concept of flavor. The bread isn't much different. It is heavy in your hand, almost as heavy as some of the tools you used to build the camp. You take a bite, and it resists your teeth. Eventually, it softens, and you chew slowly, hoping your jaw doesn't give out. The diluted vinegar water is surprisingly refreshing after the porridge. It's sharp, sour, and wakes you up faster than the Optio's whistle. As you sit with your contubernium, one of your tentmates sighs. "This is our meal? Every day?" Another recruit nods. "Every day, sometimes twice." Someone else whispers, "I'd fight a bear for a piece of cheese right now." You don't blame him. Once everyone is seated, the Optio steps forward again. "Listen closely," he says, "because understanding your diet is as important as understanding your equipment." You swallow another spoonful of barley, trying not to think about the days when your breakfast actually had flavor. A legionary's food, the Optio explains, pacing slowly, is not meant for indulgence. It is meant for endurance. Your meals are designed to keep you marching, fighting, building, and surviving. He gestures toward the breads and grains. Wheat is your foundation. You will grind it, knead it, bake it. The bread sustains you when nothing else is available. He nods toward the olives. These provide essential oils and salts, helping maintain your strength. He lifts the vinegar jug, and this keeps your water clean. It sharpens the taste, strengthens the stomach, and prevents sickness. He pauses, letting the recruits take another bite of their very uninspiring breakfast. Simple food keeps you focused. Complicated food slows you down. A recruit mutters, "I could use a little slowing down." The Optio pretends not to hear. After breakfast, you think the lesson is over. You are mistaken. He leads the entire group to a small corner of the camp where sacks of grain, barrels of water, amphorae of vinegar, baskets of dried fruit, and crates of vegetables are stacked neatly. This, he says, is your supply. You must understand it. You must protect it. And when needed, you must prepare it. You exchange a glance with your contubernium. Prepare it? Does that mean what you think it means? It does. The Optio orders each group to grind wheat using large stone querns, heavy, circular stones stacked on top of each other. You are instructed to pour grains into the top and rotate the upper stone repeatedly to make flour. It sounds simple. It is not. The stone is unreasonably heavy. It grinds slowly. Each rotation takes effort, and after only a few minutes, your shoulders ache. Sweat beads on your forehead. You realize quickly that grinding enough flour for 8 men requires the strength of 8 men. After half an hour, your group has produced what might generously be described as a handful of flour. Your arms feel as though they've spent the morning wrestling tree trunks. The Optio inspect your progress. "Pathetic," he says plainly. "Again." You grind more. Your forearms burn. Once you have enough flour, the next task is kneading the dough. This is equally uncomfortable. Your hands sink into the sticky mixture, pushing, folding, punching, and shaping it over and over. The option inspects again. "It must be firm," he says. "It should not sag like a tired donkey. Fix it." You knead harder. Finally, the dough is shaped and placed near the cooking fires. The process is slow, repetitive, and surprisingly exhausting. While the bread bakes, the Optio moves the recruits to the next task, preparing the diluted vinegar water known as pasca. You stir vinegar with water in large wooden barrels, mixing until the sharp scent reaches your nose. The drink is refreshing after a march, but preparing it in bulk is tedious. Then comes the final part of the lesson, ration calculation. The option gathers everyone and explains. Every soldier must understand his weekly ration. You cannot eat more than your share, and you cannot miscount. He hands each group a set of wooden counters and lists of numbers, barley amount, bread rations, olive distribution, water portions. You feel like you're back in a school lesson, except this time, getting the math wrong could result in your contubernium missing meals. The calculations are precise. How much grain per day? How many olives per week? How much vinegar for pasca? How long bread lasts before it spoils? Your group fumbles through the numbers, confused and tired, until the Optio walks by and taps the ground sharply. "You must learn this," he says. "Food keeps the Legion moving. Miscounting is as dangerous as disobedience." After the lesson, you feel like your brain is just as tired as your arms. When midday comes, you gather for another meal. Bread, porridge, olives, vinegar water. Nothing fancy, nothing new. But this time, something feels different. You made this. You ground it. You kneaded it. You mixed it. You baked it. It's still plain. It's still heavy. It's still strange compared to the meals you enjoyed at home. But for the first time, it feels like something earned. As you eat, the Optio approaches the recruits. You complain about simple food now, he says, but when winter comes, or when marching for days with no firewood, or when supply wagons fall behind, you will be grateful for every grain. He pauses, scanning your faces. A soldier eats with discipline. A soldier eats with purpose. He steps back, giving the final part of the day's lesson. Strength doesn't only come from weapons or armor. It comes from endurance. This food may not excite you, but it will keep you alive longer than anything else. You look down at your small bowl of barley porridge. It's not heroic, it's not glamorous, it's not delicious, but it is survival. And suddenly, you understand why legionaries carry so much grain and so few luxuries. You take another bite. The taste hasn't improved, but your appreciation has. You wake up the next morning with a small sense of hope. A tiny one. A whisper of a hope, really. Maybe, just maybe, the Optio will decide today should be a lighter day. Perhaps a pleasant walk, a gentle review of spear technique, maybe even a longer breakfast break. You step out of the tent and immediately realize how foolish that hope was. The Optio stands in the center of the training yard, arms crossed, vine staff tucked beneath his arm, expression noticeably sharper than usual. This is not the face of a man about to give you a relaxing morning. Nearby, a pair of recruits stand nervously beside a stack of tools. Judging by their expressions, they're the reason the Optio looks particularly stern today. You and the rest of your contubernium gather as the Optio steps forward. Recruits, he begins calmly, you have learned how to march, how to carry your equipment, how to hold your shield, and how to build camp. But none of those skills matter without discipline. He lets the word hang in the air. Discipline. It lands heavier than your shield. One soldier out of step puts others at risk. One soldier who ignores instructions slows the formation. One soldier who neglects his duties weakens the entire line. He taps his vine staff lightly against the ground. And today, you will learn what happens when discipline falters. You glance toward the two recruits at the front. They shift uncomfortably. The Optio gestures to them. These two fell asleep during their watch shift last night. A murmur rolls through the formation. Falling asleep on watch is one of the biggest mistakes a recruit can make. You remember how exhausted you were during your own night rotation. The cold air, the distant sounds, the long stretches of silence. Staying awake after a full day of drills feels impossible, but that doesn't matter. Watch duty is absolute. When the camp sleeps, a handful stay awake to keep it safe. The option continues. They will complete extra duties today. And since this affects the entire contubernium, his gaze shifts to the 8 exhausted-looking men standing behind them. The whole team shares responsibility. A wave of sympathy spreads through the ranks, and also a quiet reminder that the Roman army does not believe in acting alone. You succeed together, you fail together. The Optio signals for the group to step aside. Their extra tasks begin immediately. Then he turns to the rest of the recruits. Today's lesson, he says, is understanding the structure that keeps Rome's armies functioning. Without order, there is no strength. He begins to walk slowly down the line. You will learn about the chain of command, your centurion, your optio, your standard bearer, your tent leaders. Each plays a role. Each must be respected. He stops beside you. The Legion is not a collection of individuals. It is a unit, a body, and like the body, every part must move correctly. He points toward the recruits performing their extra duties, digging trenches that don't yet need to exist. That, he says, is what happens when a part of the body stops working. The rest of the recruits follow the optio toward a set of wooden posts arranged in a long line. These posts are worn smooth from years of training and mistakes. Stand here, he says. You line up beside the posts, unsure what comes next. The option points to them. These are your reminders, he explains. When technique is sloppy, when commands are ignored, when posture fails, you return here. He demonstrates a basic drill, holding your stance perfectly, shield high, sword arm back, muscles engaged. Incorrect form earns more drills. Correct form reduces them. He steps behind you and adjusts your posture. Higher shield, straighter back, stronger stance. You hold it. Your legs tremble slightly. Hold, he says. You keep holding. The seconds stretch on. Your shoulder begins to ache. Your arm burns. Then he taps your shield with his staff. It vibrates. You nearly drop it, but don't. Good, he says. Discipline begins here. He moves down the line, correcting each recruit. Some slump, some wobble, some forget to breathe. Each time, the optio stops and resets their posture. Each mistake adds extra drills, thrusts, marches, shield lifts, or more time at the post. You watch as the group beside you is told to redo their entire formation because one recruit was out of alignment. You learn something quickly. In the Roman army, no mistake belongs to one person. After the posture drills, the optio leads everyone to the open field. Next, he says, you learn punishment by work. Not punishment as in cruelty, punishment as correction, punishment as education, work that strengthens the group and teaches awareness. He points at the field. Level it. A few recruits blink. Level it? The entire field? But the optio has already handed out wooden rakes and shovels. Uneven ground disrupts formation, he explains. You will fix it. You spread across the field with your tools. You begin smoothing the earth. It is slow work. It is repetitive. It is mind-numbing. But it teaches a valuable lesson. Every detail matters. You dig out rocks. You flatten bumps. You level dips. Occasionally, the optio walks behind you. Your section is uneven, he says without looking up. Fix it. You fix it, and learn not to leave tasks half done. After the ground is level, the optio moves the recruits again. For the next lesson, he announces, you will clean your equipment. The crowd groans quietly. You pretend not to. He brings everyone to the cleaning station. Buckets of water, cloths, brushes, oil, sand for polishing. You are told to sit and begin. Armor must shine. Straps must be checked. Shields must be oiled. Weapons must be cleaned perfectly. And if your gear is unprepared, the optio warns, your whole contuberneum repeats morning drills. You suddenly polish with the determination of a man who has no desire to relive day one. The recruit next to you oils his straps carefully, triple checking them. Another scrubs his shield until the wood gleams. Eventually, the Optio inspects the gear. He picks up a shield, runs his fingers along the rim, checks the cleanliness of the boss, nods once. He moves to another shield, tilts it, examines the handle, makes a small adjustment. When he reaches yours, you hold your breath. He lifts it with practiced familiarity. It looks clean. It looks polished. It looks well cared for. He nods once. Good. You exhale. A few recruits are not so lucky. 2 shields are deemed incomplete, and their owners are sent to repeat extra duties, small corrections, nothing harsh, but absolutely motivating. The message is clear. Discipline means preparation. Preparation means survival. When equipment maintenance ends, the Optio gives a short break, emphasis on short. Then he gathers everyone for the final lesson of the day, order within ranks. He lines you up in formation with shields ready. When the centurion says move, he says, you move. When he says stop, you stop. When he says form, you form. If one person hesitates, the whole line breaks. He gives the first command. Advance. Everyone moves forward. Left. You turn. Right. You adjust. Faster. The line picks up speed. Stop. A few recruits slide a bit too far. He notices, of course. That hesitation, he says quietly, is the difference between a strong line and a broken one. You practice again, and again, and again. Hours pass. Sweat soaks your tunic. Your shield arm grows weaker. Your legs ache from constant shifting. But something changes. Your movements become smoother, your reactions faster, your formation steadier. You and the recruits around you begin moving as one body, one line, one rhythm. And when the Optio finally calls halt, there is something almost like approval in his eyes. You are beginning to understand discipline, he says. Do not lose it. Then, as if remembering he's supposed to keep you humble, he adds, you still have much to fix. By evening, you collapse beside your tent, exhausted. Your hands ache from cleaning. Your back hurts from leveling the ground. Your legs shake from formation drills. But you feel something new. Order, structure, a sense of belonging. The Roman army is not easy, it is not gentle, but it is organized, efficient, and disciplined to its core. And as you sit there watching the sun sink behind the palisade wall your conturbinium built, you realize you're beginning to understand what it means to be a legionary. Not just the marching, not just the armor, not just the weapons, but the mindset, the unity, the responsibility. And slowly, painfully, you realize you're becoming part of the machine. There comes a point in Roman legionary training when time stops feeling like time. It becomes something else entirely, a loop of routines, commands, and repetitive tasks that blur into one long, dusty march of exhaustion. You reach that point today. You wake up before the sun again, though you can't remember a day when you didn't. You hear the familiar creak of leather boots, the clatter of armor, the quiet groaning of recruits trying to stretch muscles that stopped listening to them days ago. Your tent mate shakes his head and sighs. "What day is it?" he asks. You think for a moment, then shrug. You genuinely don't know. Time in the Roman army is marked by whistles, not calendars, by orders, not seasons. By the length of a training drill, not by the rising and setting of the sun. You step outside into the cool morning air, rubbing the sleep from your eyes. The sky is pale blue, calm, peaceful, the exact opposite of what your morning will become. The Optio is already waiting. He stands in the center of the yard, staff tucked beneath his arm, eyes sharp. He looks like he hasn't aged a day. Meanwhile, you feel like you've aged at least 40. "Recruits," he says, "today is drill day." One recruit whispers, "Isn't every day drill day?" The Optio hears him. He pretends not to, which is somehow worse. He gives the first command. "Form up." The formation is sloppy at first. Everyone is tired, everyone is stiff, but the Optio shakes his head sharply. "You've learned this. You know this. Fix it." You straighten your back, lift your shield, place your feet correctly. Slowly, the line becomes steady and uniform. And then the real work begins. The marching loop. The Optio raises his staff. "Forward march." Your feet begin moving automatically. The gravel crunches beneath your sandals. The weight of your equipment settles into familiar grooves, the strap digging into your shoulder, the shield pulling your arm downward, the sword bouncing lightly at your hip. Your muscles complain, but they also remember. They know this. They've lived this dozens of times already. After a few minutes, the option shouts again. "Double time!" Your legs pick up speed. Your heart races. Your breathing quickens. "Slow! Turn! Stop! Advance!" The commands blend together. Your brain stops thinking and simply obeys. Left, right, forward, stop. You march until you lose track of how long you've been moving. It could be 10 minutes or an hour. Time dissolves in the heat and dust. Finally, the Optio calls for a halt. The recruits stop in unison, or at least attempt to. One recruit stumbles slightly, bumping into the man beside him. The Optio sees it instantly. "That hesitation," he says, walking toward the recruit, "is what we remove with drills." He taps his staff on the ground. "We do it again. You march again. You turn again. You stop again." The loop continues until it feels like marching is all you've ever done. The weapon rhythm. After marching, the Optio leads everyone to the practice posts, thick wooden poles sunk into the ground, worn smooth from years of strikes. He places his staff under his arm and stands before the line. "Your weapons will obey you because you obey the drills," he says. "Repetition strengthens the mind." He holds up a wooden sword. "Ready positions." You grip the wooden blade. It feels lighter than your metal gladius, but somehow heavier in your tired hand. You adjust your footing, raise your shield, and lock your stance. "Strike!" You thrust forward. The wood hits the post with a dull thud. Again. Thud. Again. Thud. Again. Thud. Your shoulder burns. Your wrist aches. Sweat drips down your back. The Optio walks behind the formation, correcting stances, adjusting elbows, shifting shields, and occasionally tapping someone's leg with the staff to improve their posture. "Your arm is too wide," he says to one recruit. "You're swinging like you're cutting firewood," he says to another. Then he reaches you. "Straight," he says, adjusting your wrist. "Controlled, not emotional." You strike again, slower, more precise. He nods once. Better. Continue. And you do continue. For a long time. So long that the wooden post begins to show new marks, and your arm begins to tremble. When the Optio finally calls for a break, no one cheers. Everyone simply lowers their arms in silence, grateful for the pause. The shield wall experience. After water, precious, cool water, the Optio gathers everyone again. Form the wall, he commands. You step into position beside your contubernium, shields overlapping, creating a barrier thick enough to stop arrows and stubborn enough to test your patience. Advance slowly, he says. You begin stepping forward together. Every move must match the person beside you. Every shield must stay aligned. Every push must remain steady. Then the Optio walks behind you. Faster. Your legs obey. Your shield grows heavier. Your arms shake. Push. You lean into the shields. You feel the pressure of the formation behind you. You hear the grunt of effort as everyone tightens their stance. The Optio suddenly slams his staff into the shield line. The impact ripples through the formation. Hold! You tighten your grip. Your arm burns. Your shoulder feels ready to detach. Hold! He shouts again. You hold. Barely. Then he strikes the shield line again and again. Each impact tests your discipline, your balance, your ability to trust the wall. Finally, the Optium steps back. Good, he says. Now, again. You thought he might give you a break. You were wrong. The repetition spiral. From here, the day becomes a spiral of repeated tasks. Marching, halting, turning, weapon drills, shield practice, formation tests, stance adjustment, marching again, marching again. Every drill begins to look familiar. Every command feels predictable. Every movement becomes automatic. Your body is tired, but your mind enters a strange rhythm, a calm, steady understanding that this repetition is shaping you. The Optio notices. Your bodies are complaining, he says, but your discipline is starting to form. This is how soldiers are made. He gives one more command. Final march of the day. You groan, just a little, but obey. You march in formation, legs heavy, shield dragging slightly, but still moving as one. By the time the Optio finally calls halt, the sun has shifted noticeably overhead. Every recruit looks drained, dusty, and ready to collapse. But there's something else, too, a sense of unity. You moved together. You drilled together. You survived another day together. Evening in the tents. When the Optio dismisses the group, you return to your tent with your contubernium. No one talks at first. Everyone sits down slowly, quietly, with the blank expression of someone processing the fact that their limbs still exist. One recruit lies down on his back and raises a hand weakly. Is this what every day is like? He asks. Another replies, I think so. A third mutters, I can't feel my arms. You understand all of them. You eat your simple meal, bread, porridge, olives, and it tastes a little better today. Maybe not the flavor, but the meaning. You earned it. You survive on it. As night falls, the camp glows with lantern light. The walls you helped build stand tall. The trenches you dug are solid. The tools are cleaned and ready for tomorrow. You lie down on your cot, exhausted but strangely calm. This is the Roman rhythm. Harsh, demanding, repetitive. But it's also steady, predictable, structured. You may not last a day as a legionary, not comfortably anyway, but today proves something important. You're learning to endure. You're learning to move as part of something greater. You're learning the brutal, beautiful discipline of Rome. Tomorrow will be just as hard, maybe harder. But tonight, you sleep knowing you survived another day in the greatest army the ancient world ever built. By now, you've accepted a simple truth. Whenever you wake up thinking, surely the worst is behind me, the Roman army immediately proves you wrong. Today is no different. The morning starts with the familiar stiffness, the sensation that your body has been carved from dry wood rather than flesh. Your shoulders ache. Your legs feel heavy. Your hands are still raw from grinding grain and gripping weapons. You stagger out of the tent, inhale the cool dawn air, and savor it, because you have a feeling the peacefulness won't last. And, of course, you're right. The Optio stands waiting in the training yard, vine staff under his arm, expression more focused than usual. This is the face he wears when the day ahead will test you in entirely new ways. Recruits, he begins, you have learned the basics of discipline. Today, you learn another essential lesson. The Legion does not survive on strength alone. It survives on building. He walks slowly along the front rank. Rome expands because its armies can move, and armies move because we build the roads. He pauses. And today, he says, you will learn how to build one. A few recruits blink. One quietly whispers, "We're building a road?" Yes, you are building a road. A real one. The Optio gestures toward the edge of the camp where piles of tools are laid out. Shovels, picks, spades, mallets, baskets, wooden stakes, ropes, and piles of stone. Your heart sinks. This is engineering day, he says calmly. Follow every instruction carefully. Every measurement matters. Step 1. Marking the route. You are divided into groups of 8, your contubernium. Each team is assigned a section of the training road, a long dirt path that cuts across the field. The Optio hands your group a length of rope with knots tied at specific intervals. This is your measurement line. Rome does not dig randomly. He drives a wooden stake into the ground, marks the first point, and stretches the rope straight ahead. Begin here. Dig your trench exactly this wide and this deep. You take one look at the ground, hard, dry, stubborn earth, and feel your shoulders tighten in anticipation. But you step forward with your shovel, because there is no other option. You plunge the shovel into the soil. It resists. You try again. It moves slightly. You glance at your tent mates. They're already digging, grunting softly as they force the tools deeper into the ground. Together, the 8 of you dig, and dig, and dig. The sun climbs higher as your trench slowly takes shape. Your arms burn, your back aches. Sweat trickles down your face and neck. Dirt clings to your tunic and sandals. The Optio walks by occasionally with a critical eye. Too shallow, he says to one group. Too crooked, he says to another. When he reaches your group, he kneels, measures the depth, and checks the alignment. He nods once. Acceptable. Continue. Praise! Actual praise! You feel a strange burst of energy. Step 2. Laying the foundation. Once the trench is dug, you expect the hardest part to be over. It isn't. The Optio signals for the next task. Now you add the base layer. Soldiers bring baskets filled with rough gravel, heavy, jagged stones that clink loudly when poured. Each basket feels like it contains half a mountain. Your contubernium takes turns lifting, carrying, and dumping stones into the trench. The gravel forms the foundation of the road, thick, dense, and stable. The Optio explains while you labor. Roads must last. They must hold armies, wagons, supplies, and horses. Every layer is essential. Every handful of gravel strengthens the base. You think that's inspiring. Your back disagrees. When the gravel is finally level across your section, the Optio brings out large wooden tampers, heavy blocks attached to long handles. "Tamp it," he says. You begin pounding the stones into place. Up and down, over and over until your arms shake. The gravel settles, compacting into a strong foundation. You take a breath, thinking maybe now the task is done. It isn't. Step 3. Adding the middle layer. The Optio directs your group toward another pile, smaller, smoother stones. These form the second layer. The road must be flat and strong. Your group carries basket after basket, pouring the stones carefully and spreading them evenly. The sun is high now. The heat is intense. Sweat rolls into your eyes, making you blink repeatedly. But you keep working, because that's what legionaries do. When the layer is complete, you use wooden rakes to smooth it out, followed by more camping. Your arms feel like they will detach from your body at any moment. But then, finally, the Optio nods. Good. Now the surface. Step 4, the road surface. This is the part you've seen in stories, the paving stones. Flat stones, carved and shaped, sitting in a pile waiting for their moment. They are heavier than they look. Each one feels like lifting a small shield made of rock. Your group places them carefully, aligning them across the top of the road. The Optio inspects your placement. "Close the gaps," he says. "A well-made road has no space for water to rot the foundation." You slide the stones closer. You adjust their angle. You tap them with wooden mallets until they settle. One stone pinches your fingers. You mutter something your mother would not approve of. The Optio hears it. He ignores it. When the stones are finally aligned, the Optio stands at one end of the road and slowly walks across it. He steps, listens, looks. Your entire group holds its breath. He stops, turns, and says, "Acceptable. Move on." You all exhale at the same time. Step 5. Building ramps and ditches. Just when you think the road is complete, the Optio points to the sides. The road needs runoff channels. Dig trenches beside the edges. Your group returns to digging. Again. The earth here is softer, thankfully, but your muscles are beyond tired now. Your movements are slower. Your breath is heavier. But you dig, and shape, and smooth the sides. When the trenches are finished, the Optio explains, these prevent flooding. Good roads remain dry. Wet roads fail. Then he directs the group to build a slight ramp at the road's end, a raised section that helps carts transition onto the path. You lift more stones, arrange them carefully, smooth the dirt, pack it down. It feels endless, but gradually the ramp forms. Step 6. Inspection. The Optio waits until every group has finished. The sun is beginning to lower, casting long shadows over the work. He walks the entire length of the training road, slowly, carefully, watching every detail. You stand with your conturbinium, hands on your knees, gasping for air, praying he doesn't make you redo anything. He stops, turns, and says, "You have built a road." No sarcasm, no corrections, no disappointment. Actual approval. You exchange tired smiles with your team. Even the recruit who usually complains under his breath stands straighter. The Optio steps forward. Remember this: the enemy may fear your swords, but they cannot outrun your roads. Because of work like this, Rome reaches everywhere. You look at the road, straight, strong, solid. You built it. Your hands, your sweat, your aching muscles. And suddenly, you understand why Roman engineering changed the world. Evening in the camp. When the Optio finally dismisses the recruits, the camp buzzes with exhausted satisfaction. You sit with your contubernium, sharing a quiet meal. Someone says, "I'll never look at a road the same way again." Another replies, "I'll never walk on one without crying." You laugh, tired but genuine laughter. As night settles over the camp, you lie down in the tent, feeling the deep aches of hard labor, but also something else, a sense of accomplishment. You didn't just train today, you created something that will last, something built the Roman way, with discipline, precision, and teamwork. And as your eyes close, you understand why legionaries took such pride in their work. Tomorrow will bring new challenges, new exhaustion, new lessons. But tonight, you sleep knowing this: you survived Engineering Day. And that means you can survive almost anything. You wake up the next morning to the sound of something unfamiliar hitting the roof of your tent. A soft, steady tapping that at first blends into your dreams, then grows louder until even the most exhausted recruit can't pretend to ignore it. When you finally peel your eyes open, your brain takes a few seconds to register what's happening. It's raining. Not a gentle sprinkle, not a pleasant drizzle, but the kind of dense, persistent rain that seems determined to test your patience, your equipment, and quite possibly your will to live. You sit up slowly, rubbing your face with both hands, feeling the cold dampness that has crept into the tent overnight. The air is cooler today, carrying the sharp, earthy scent of wet soil, leather, and damp canvas. Your tunic clings to your skin in certain spots, and you immediately know this day will be difficult in an entirely new way. Because if there is one thing the Roman army refuses to acknowledge, it is the concept of bad weather. Rain, wind, heat, dust, mud, none of it matters. Training continues, marching continues, work continues. You step outside with your contubernium, and the world has transformed into a soggy, slippery mess. Water dricks from the tent edges in steady rivulets. The ground, usually firm beneath your sandals, has turned into churning mud that immediately tries to swallow your feet with each step. Your sandals squish unpleasantly, and you begin missing the dry dust you used to complain about. The Optio stands in the middle of the yard, seemingly untouched by the rain. His posture remains perfectly straight, his tunic somehow unwrinkled, and his expression calm, as if the sky is not currently dumping half the river onto the camp. You suspect he is either made of stone or has learned to ignore weather through sheer force of will. "Recruits," he says, raising his voice above the rain, "today you will learn how to operate in unfavorable conditions, because the enemy does not pause for rain, and neither will we. If you cannot function in discomfort, you cannot function in the field." You swallow hard, already bracing yourself. The Optio gestures toward the open training ground. Mud has formed small pools in uneven patches. The air is chilly. Armor will be colder. Shields will be heavier. And marching, you realize, will be far more difficult on slippery ground. "Begin with warm-up drills," he says, as if this is perfectly reasonable. You step into formation, shield in hand, and immediately feel the rain soaking through your tunic. The fabric becomes heavier by the second, clinging to your shoulders and back. Your sandals sink into the mud, making the simple act of standing still a challenge. You shift your weight, trying to find balance, and the Optio's voice cuts through the rain. "Stand upright. The weather does not excuse poor posture." So you straighten, adjusting your shield angle, even though cold water drips down your wrist and collects inside the wooden rim, turning the shield slightly heavier and more awkward to grip. "March," the Optio calls. You begin moving in unison with the others, but the mud pulls at your feet with every step. You lift your sandal, but it sticks for half a second before releasing with a wet, slurping sound that's almost comedic, if you weren't living through it. You look around and see the same thing happening to everyone. Some recruits nearly stumble. One actually does, sliding forward before catching himself. The Optio notices instantly. "If mud can defeat you," he says sharply, "what will you do against a moving enemy?" The thought does not make you feel better. You march through the sucking mud, your feet lifting and sinking, the repetitive motion wearing down your stamina faster than usual. After several minutes, your calves burn, your feet ache, and your shield feels twice as heavy as normal. The rain only falls harder, running down your forehead and dripping into your eyes, making them sting. You blink and keep going, knowing that stopping is not an option. "Faster," the Optio commands. Your group picks up speed, trying to maintain formation while avoiding deep puddles. The mud splashes up your legs, coating your shins in cold, gritty layers. Several recruits slip again, and the Optio shouts for everyone to keep formation tighter. Then he stops the march abruptly. "Enough," he says. "You will now learn how to keep your equipment functioning in wet conditions." He gestures toward the shields, and you already know this won't be pleasant. When the wood becomes soaked, it grows heavier and less responsive, he explains. A legionary adjusts his stance accordingly. He demonstrates by raising his own shield, perfectly, effortlessly, even though rain runs down the curved surface. His grip is steady, his posture unwavering. You mimic the stance, lifting your waterlogged shield and feel the weight tug at your arm instantly. The Optio walks down the line, observing each recruit. "Higher," he says to one. "Angle inward," he says to another. When he reaches you, he adjusts your elbow slightly. Use your legs for balance. Do not fight the shield with your arm alone. You correct your posture and feel marginal improvement, but your arm still burns from the added weight. "Now, hold," he says. You stand there, shield raised, as the rain continues. Your muscles tremble. Your breathing deepens. Water drips steadily from the edge of your shield, creating a small puddle at your feet. The ground softens beneath the weight of the group, turning into one large, muddy depression. After what feels like an eternity, the Optio lowers his staff. Form testudo. Of course. You raise your shield overhead, joining it with the shields of your contubernium. The rain now drums against the line of shields in a constant rhythm like 1,000 fingers tapping wood. Water leaks between the edges, dripping onto your hair and face. Your shoulder shakes under the strain. The Optio walks around the formation, checking for gaps. There will be days, he explains, when rain, wind, or cold threaten your focus. A weak formation breaks. A strong formation endures. You grit your teeth, tightening your grip as the Optio taps the top of the formation with his staff. The shields rattle, but you hold. You refuse to let your shield tilt. Then he strikes again, harder. Rainwater splashes downward. Your shoulders burn. But the line holds. After several long moments, he signals to lower shields. You breathe a sigh of relief. Brief, shallow, because the Optio immediately calls out the next task. Construction training. Follow me. You and the others trudge across the muddy yard toward a new section of the field where piles of wooden stakes and wet ropes lie scattered. The Optio squats down and presses his hand into the mud. When the ground is wet, he says, setting defenses becomes more difficult. You must learn to anchor stakes in unstable soil. He hands each contubernium a bundle of stakes and a mallet. The stakes are slick with rainwater. The rope is wet and cold. You carry the bundle to your assigned area and begin. The first stake sinks easily enough. The ground is soft, after all, but getting it to stay straight is the challenge. Each swing of the mallet sends mud splashing up your legs. The stake bends slightly. You straighten it. It leans again. You adjust. Again, the option calls. Do it until it holds. You hammer, adjust, hammer, adjust. Rain mixes with sweat on your forehead. Your tunic clings to your back. Your hands grow numb from gripping wet wood. Eventually, your contubernium completes the row of stakes. The Optio inspects them. He nods once. Acceptable, he says. But there is no break. Now, dig drainage channels. You almost laugh, not because it's funny, but because the absurdity of digging drainage trenches during a rainstorm is simply too much for your tired brain to process. Still, you grab your shovel. You carve channels along the edges of the training area, guiding water away from the trenches and stakes. Mud sticks to the shovel blade, making each movement heavier. You scoop, lift, throw, repeat, over and over. Your muscles burn. Your hands blister. Your breath comes in sharp bursts. At one point, your foot sinks so deeply that pulling it free rips your sandal half off. You fix it quickly, praying the Optio didn't see. He did. He always sees, but he says nothing, which is somehow more nerve-wracking. Finally, after hours of rain-soaked work, the Optio calls everyone back into formation. Today, he says, you learned that the weather does not care about your comfort, your training schedule, or your mood. Rain does not respect your exhaustion. Mud does not pity you. Cold does not pause for you to warm your hands. He steps forward, voice steady and clear despite the rain. What separates a legionary from everyone else is the ability to keep moving, keep building, and keep fighting, no matter the conditions. He looks across the line of soaked, shivering recruits. You have endured a difficult day, but difficulty is your training. Every hardship prepares you for something greater. He nods once. Dismissed. No one cheers. No one smiles. Everyone simply trudges back to their tents, dripping, muddy, heavier in both body and spirit. Inside the tent, you strip off your wet tunic and wrap yourself in a blanket, scratchy, worn, but blessedly dry. The sound of rain drumming on the canvas becomes almost soothing. Steam rises from your damp skin as you exhale deeply, finally allowing yourself to relax. Outside, the camp crackles with quiet activity, soldiers maintaining fires, cleaning equipment, repairing straps, checking shields, preparing meals. Even in the rain, the machine of the Roman army never stops. As you eat your simple dinner, warm and comforting after a long day, you realize something important. The rain didn't defeat you. The mud didn't break you. The cold didn't stop you. You survived the kind of day that destroys morale and drains energy. You endured the conditions that crush the unprepared. You worked through a storm that cared nothing for your limits. And as you lie down in your tent, cocooned in your blanket, listening to the fading rain, you feel something strange, a quiet pride. Roman training hasn't made you strong yet, but it has made you resilient. And that, you realize, is what will matter most in the days ahead. You wake up to a strange feeling, silence. No rain, no cold wind shaking the tent, no distant clatter of armor, just a calm, quiet dawn settling over the camp like a soft blanket. It's almost peaceful, almost pleasant, almost a trap. Because in the Roman army, a peaceful morning usually means one thing: the calm before a long, punishing march. You step outside and see the option standing near the main path, hands clasped behind his back, looking far too content for a man about to guide dozens of exhausted recruits across miles of unforgiving terrain. His posture is sharp, his tunic neat, and his expression gives away nothing, except that today will push you hard. Recruits, he calls, today you will learn what a real march feels like, not the short drills you've done so far. Not the warm-ups, a proper march, the kind we use on campaign. You swallow a little too loudly. A few recruits murmur under their breath. One groans a quiet, "Oh no," earning a sharp glance from the Optio. You will carry full equipment, he continues. Shields, packs, rations, tools, and weapons. You will maintain formation, you will keep pace, and you will not fall behind. He pauses to let it sink in. A legionary does not ask how far the destination is. He marches until the day's work is done. No one argues. You just stand there, breath steadying, heart preparing. The Optio signals for everyone to collect full marching gear. You return to your tent and start preparing. The pack is heavy. The shield is heavier. The armor clinks softly as you adjust your straps. When everything is finally secure, you feel like a walking storage cart. You step back outside, and the Optia inspects the line. "Check your shoes," he says. "Blisters slow you more than exhaustion. Fix anything loose now." Several recruits kneel to adjust their sandal straps. You tug yours tighter, feeling the leather press against your ankles. Form up. Your contubernium moves into position. The line stretches across the yard, a river of armor and rad shields. You exhale slowly, settling into the stance taught on day 1. The Optio raises his arm. Begin the march! You set off. The first mile, finding rhythm. At first, the march feels manageable. The morning air is cool, and the sun sits low against the horizon. Your boots hit the dirt in a steady rhythm. Thump, thump, thump. The same sound echoed by dozens of others. For a moment, it feels almost calming. But the weight of your pack becomes noticeable within minutes. The strap digs into your shoulder. Your shield knocks lightly against your thigh. The sword bumps gently at your hip. It isn't painful, but it pulls your attention, demanding that you adjust again and again. The Optio walks alongside the line, calling reminders. Keep formation! Do not drift sideways! Left foot first! Stay aligned! You focus on matching the steps of the recruit in front of you. The dust rises from the ground and settles on your sandals, your legs, and the edge of your shield. The sun warms your back as it climbs higher. You find a rhythm. It's not comfortable, but it's steady. The third mile. The pain begins. The road stretches ahead, long and uneven, winding gently between low hills. You can't see the end of it. Only the dust rising from the feet of the formation ahead. Your shoulders ache. Your breathing deepens. Sweat begins to form along your hairline. Every step feels a little heavier than the last. But you press forward. The Optio watches closely. Keep your spacing, he calls. Do not let the formation stretch. One recruit slows slightly, and his contrabinium immediately closes the gap. No one wants to be the reason the formation falters. You feel your calves beginning to tighten. Your feet sting with every step. Your tongue grows dry. But you keep going. The 5th mile, adjusting to the weight. By the 5th mile, the pack on your back feels like an uninvited passenger. Every piece of gear shifts when you move. The tent poles, the tools, the rations. You adjust the strap again, but the relief lasts only a moment. Your shield grows heavier, too. It pulls at your arm, even though you rest it against your shoulder between commands. The wood creaks softly with each stride. Despite the discomfort, something interesting begins to happen. The march becomes strangely mechanical. Your mind quiets. Your legs take over. The rhythm returns. Thump, thump, thump. The Optio's voice cuts through the air. Focus the mind through the march, he says. A distracted soldier stumbles. A focused one endures. You take a slow breath and let the rhythm guide you. Forward, forward, forward. The water break, a moment of relief. After several long miles, the Optio finally raises his hand, signaling for a halt. The formation stops instantly, grateful but silent. You drop your pack carefully, very carefully, because one wrong movement might pull your shoulder in a direction you don't want it to go. You take a long drink of water. It tastes like metal and dust, but it's glorious. The cool liquid cuts through the dryness in your throat. Your heartbeat slows. Your legs tremble lightly as they try to relax. Around you, recruits sigh, stretch, and breathe heavily. Some shake out their arms. Others roll their shoulders. One quietly whispers, "I can't feel my feet." You believe him. The option gives only a short break before calling out, "Pack's on!" You lift the pack again, forcing your muscles to obey. They protest, but they comply. The weight settles into place. Form up. Everyone moves quickly. Even exhausted, the formation reforms with surprising precision. March! And off you go again. The 9th mile. Testing limits. The sun climbs high. The heat increases. The dust rises thicker. The road roughens. The terrain slopes upward slightly, adding strain to every step. Your legs burn. Your back aches. Your shoulders throb. Your hands feel numb from gripping the shield. But you do not stop. No one does. The Optio doesn't shout as often now. He lets the march test you. He knows that fatigue will break discipline long before anything else. Every few minutes, someone stumbles, a small misstep, a tiny slip, but the formation shifts quickly to support them. No one is left behind. No one walks alone. The march becomes a shared burden. Your breathing becomes steady again. Your mind begins to drift. The world narrows to a single thought. Keep moving. The 12th mile, the final stretch. When the Optio announces 2 miles remaining, the reaction is immediate. It's not joy, exactly, but something close, a wave of relief mixed with determination. 2 miles. You can survive 2 miles. Probably. The march continues. Your legs feel like wet rope. Your chest rises and falls in heavy breaths. Your sandals scrape against the dusty road. But the end is coming. You can sense it. Keep the line tight, the Optio calls. Shield steady. Pace consistent. The formation remains strong. Exhausted, but strong. Finally, you see the marker in the distance. A simple wooden post. The finish. The Optio raises his hand. Halt. Everyone stops. No one speaks. No one moves. Everyone simply stands there, breathing heavily, trying to understand the fact that the march is over. The Optio walks to the front of the formation. You have completed 12 miles with full gear, he says. Some of you thought you couldn't. Some of you doubted your pace. Yet you stayed together. That is the strength of the Roman line. He scans the recruits. A soldier must endure, he says, not just in battle, but on the road that leads to it. He nods once. Return to camp. A few recruits whisper, "We have to walk back?" The Optio hears. He smiles slightly. "No," he says, "today you ride the wagons back. You earned it." Relief washes over the formation like cool rain. Back at camp. When the wagons finally drop you off at camp, your legs feel shaky and your shoulders are tender from the pack's weight. You drop your gear inside your tent, sink onto your cot, and exhale slowly. Your body aches in a dozen different places, but your mind is strangely clear. You pushed through miles of discomfort. You marched farther than you thought possible. You kept formation. You stayed disciplined. As you eat your simple dinner of bread and olives, the exhaustion becomes almost satisfying. Tonight, you sleep deeply, the kind of sleep earned by miles of hard marching and hours of steady determination. You survived one of the most legendary parts of legionary life, and now you understand why Rome's armies could cross continents. Not because of glory, not because of strength alone, but because of endurance. The morning after the long march is always the same for every new legionary. You wake up and wonder, for a brief and hopeful second, if the previous day was only a dream. A long, dusty, exhausting dream that your brain made up just to scare you. But then you try to move your legs, and every muscle screams at you. Your calves feel tight, your feet ache, your back feels like you slept on a pile of stones instead of a thin straw mat. Even your shoulders, which weren't doing the marching, seem offended by what they were forced to carry. You sit up slowly, groaning softly as your body protests the movement. Your tent mates wake one by one, each with their own set of complaints. "My feet are on fire," one mutters. "My knees hate me," another says. A third just sits silently, staring at the ground, as if contemplating his life choices. Despite the discomfort, there is no time to rest. The Roman army does not believe in recovery days, but it does believe in something else: maintenance. The Optio stands outside, looking surprisingly cheerful, as always. "Recruits," he announces, "today you will learn something just as important as marching or drilling. Today, you learn how to keep yourselves functioning." He gestures toward a small structure near the edge of camp, a simple tent reinforced with a wooden frame. It's the medical tent, known to veteran soldiers and terrified recruits alike as the place where all the little problems get addressed, and where the big problems are dealt with as calmly as possible. "Follow me," the Optio says. You limp behind him, feeling every step in the soles of your feet. Inside the medical tent. The interior of the tent smells faintly of herbs, smoke, and oil. Clay jars line wooden shelves. Bronze tools sit neatly on a table. A mortar and pestle rest beside dried plants and bundles of cloth. The camp medic steps forward, an older man with steady hands and a stern but patient expression. He looks at the recruits like he's seen thousands of them before. He probably has. "These young men," he says, gesturing toward you all, "look like they need help." The Optio nods. They need instruction and treatment. The medic sighs in a way that suggests he's used to being handed exhausted recruits like a basket of broken tools. "Very well," he says. "Let us begin." He gestures for everyone to gather around a low table. On it lies a pair of sandals with frayed straps and a soldier's foot wrapped in cloth. "This," the medic explains, "is the most common injury in the entire Roman army, the humble blister." He unwraps the cloth, revealing an angry red patch near the heel. A few recruits wince. "Blisters slow the march," he says, "and once the march slows, the whole unit suffers." He dips a cloth in warm water and begins cleaning the area. "You treat them early," he continues. "If you wait, the injury worsens and the march becomes unbearable." You watch closely, realizing that the long march you completed yesterday probably gifted you a few blisters of your own. The medic holds up a small clay pot. "This is a soothing ointment," he says. "Oil, herbs, and a bit of beeswax. It calms the skin." He applies a thin layer and rewraps the foot in fresh cloth. When you march, your sandals rub the same places every time. You must learn how to protect your feet. He looks over the recruits. "First rule: tighten your straps before you march. Loose straps move. Movement causes friction. Friction causes blisters." Several recruits nod vigorously. "Second rule: clean your feet every night. Dirt and sweat worsen the skin." He pauses before adding, "And third, listen to your feet. They tell you when something is wrong." You take mental notes while quietly checking your own heels when the medic isn't looking. Treating the aches. Next, the medic directs everyone to sit on benches arranged along the tent wall. "You marched many miles yesterday," he says. "Your muscles are stiff because they worked hard. This is normal." He walks along the benches, handing out small jars of oil. "This," he explains, "is simple olive oil mixed with herbs. Rub it into your arms and legs. It warms the skin and relaxes the muscles. You scoop some onto your fingers and begin working it into your calves. The smell is earthy and soothing. As you rub the oil into your skin, the ache softens slightly. It's not a miracle cure, but it helps." The medic continues down the line. "When your shoulders ache from the shield, rub oil along the joint," he says. "Do not ignore tightness. If your arm locks during battle, you will not lift your shield quickly enough. Recovery is as important as strength." You nod slowly, understanding the message. The Roman army doesn't expect you to be indestructible. It expects you to take care of yourself so you can keep functioning. Your body is a tool, one that must be maintained. Minor injuries and lessons. After the oil treatment, the medic displays a small kit of bronze instruments. "These are your friends," he says. "Do not fear them." The tools include tweezers, clamps, hooks, needles, and small knives. They gleam in the light of the lanterns. Some recruits look nervous. You don't blame them. The medic points to a recruit with a small cut on his palm, a result of gripping a shield strap too tightly during drills. "In the field," the medic says, "even small wounds must be cleaned. Infection spreads quickly when you march with sweat and dirt." He cleans the cut, applies a herbal paste, and wraps it neatly. The recruit flexes his fingers and nods appreciatively. "Good," the medic says. "Now, who else needs attention?" One by one, recruits step forward. A bruised shoulder, a scraped knee, a small cut near a thumb, a twisted ankle that needs binding. The medic works efficiently, explaining each step as he goes. Bruises heal faster with rest and oil. Clean cuts before you wrap them. Never ignore swelling. Always report sharp pain. Not all injuries are visible. His voice is calm, even soothing. You begin to understand why veterans trust him so completely. Learning self-care. When all the basic treatments are finished, the medic gives one final lesson. "You must learn to treat yourselves," he says. "I will not always be with you. Sometimes you march for days. Sometimes you are far from the main camp. Sometimes you must help each other." He hands each contubernium a small pouch, a simple medical kit. Inside, you find a roll of clean cloth, a small jar of oil, a packet of herbs, a few narrow wooden splints, a strip of leather, and a small bronze tool for cleaning wounds. "This," the medic explains, "is your emergency kit. Take care of it. Replace what you use. Never leave it behind." You tuck the pouch into your pack carefully. It feels oddly comforting, like carrying a tiny piece of safety with you. The Optio steps forward again. "You have learned how to march and how to fight," he says. "Now you have learned how to stay standing." He looks directly at the group. "You cannot be effective if your body fails. You must listen to it, maintain it, protect it." He turns toward the tent flap. "Back to your duties." You leave the medic's tent feeling a little lighter, not because your body is healed, but because you now understand the importance of taking care of yourself. Afternoon duties. The day continues with lighter tasks meant to help you recover while still preparing you for future challenges. First, you clean your equipment. You polish armor, oil your shield, tighten your sandal straps, and check for frayed edges or loose buckles. Then you practice slow movement drills designed to stretch your muscles, not exhaust them. You walk in formation, turn gradually, and practice holding your shield with controlled breathing. The Optio watches like a hawk. No rushing, he says. Today is steady. It feels strange at first, almost gentle, but after yesterday's march, your body appreciates the break. As the sun begins to lower, you feel a sense of quiet accomplishment, not from strength, not from speed, but from learning how to endure. Evening reflections. That night, sitting beside your tent with your contubernium, you compare blisters, laugh at each other's complaints, and share a simple meal. One soldier says, "I never thought I'd appreciate herbs and olive oil." Another replies, "My feet feel like they've marched to Spain." A third mutters, "At least we're not marching again tomorrow." You hope he's right, but you never know. As you lie down on your cot, your muscles still sore but manageable, the medic's words echo in your mind. Take care of your body. It carries you further than your sword ever will. And with that thought, you drift into a deep, grateful sleep, knowing that survival in the Roman army isn't just about strength or discipline. It's about endurance, maintenance, and learning to fix the small problems before they become big ones. You wake up the next morning with a strange mix of dread and curiosity. Your body still aches from yesterday's treatments and slow drills, but the soreness is familiar now, the kind that settles into your muscles like an old companion. The camp is quieter than usual when you step outside. Not silent, just subdued. There's a tension in the air you haven't felt before. Your contubernium gathers near the main path, where the Optio stands waiting with an expression that seems sharper than usual. His posture is straight, but not rigid. His eyes scan the recruits with a seriousness that immediately pulls everyone to attention. "Recruits," he says, "today is different." That alone is enough to make your stomach tighten. Today, he continues, you will learn how it feels to stand in a line facing an enemy, not a real one, but close enough to test your discipline, your focus, and your nerve. You exchange glances with the others. This sounds serious. This sounds like the next step. This sounds like something none of you feel prepared for. The Optio lifts his staff and gestures toward the far side of the training field. There, arranged neatly in 2 rows, are wooden dummies. They're shaped like human silhouettes, each mounted on a sturdy post. Some hold wooden spears. Others carry large shields. A few have nothing but a wooden torso and a carved head. You instantly understand what today is about. You have marched, the Optio says. You have drilled. You have built. You have endured weather, long days, and hard labor. He pauses. But nothing matters if you cannot stand steady when the line forms and the enemy stands before you. A quiet ripple runs through the recruits. It isn't fear exactly, but it's close. The Optio signals for everyone to collect their full equipment. You return to your tent, rehearse the motions of buckling straps, adjust your belt, secure your sword, and lift your shield. Everything feels heavier today, not because the weight has changed, but because of what the weight represents. When you return to the field, the Optio organizes the formation into 3 rows, each row behind the next. This is how a legion stands, he says, tight, connected, ready. He positions himself in front of the formation and takes a deep breath. Step forward. You move. The first row stops a few paces away from the wooden enemy. The second row forms directly behind them. The third row follows, completing the line. Your shield is raised. Your stance is set. Your breathing deepens. The Optio points at the wooden figures. You will treat these as you would treat a real enemy, not with fear, not with hesitation, but with discipline. He begins the first drill, the stare down. Hold the line and do not move, the Optio commands. At first, it seems simple. You stand in front of the wooden enemy, shield up, eyes focused. But after a minute or two, a strange feeling creeps into your chest. The silence, the stillness, the sense of facing something, even a wooden shape, that represents danger. Your breathing becomes slightly heavier. Your grip tightens on the shield. Your mind wanders toward questions you'd rather not ask yet. What will a real enemy feel like? Will you freeze? Will your training be enough? You shake the thought from your head and return your attention to the Optio. This drill is not about strength, he says. It is about calm. In the moments before contact, fear tries to crawl into your mind. You must push it out. A legionary holds steady. You steady yourself. A rhythm forms in your breathing, slow, controlled, measured. The Optio watches your faces closely. He sees the tension. He recognizes it. He even expects it. After a few more minutes, he raises his staff. Fall back. The formation steps back in unison. You exhale quietly, realizing you are holding more tension in your shoulders than you thought. Approach and brace. Next drill, the Optio says, you will advance in formation. He points to the lines. First line leads, second and third follow. You raise your shield again. Forward march. The formation moves in a slow push toward the wooden figures. You feel the weight of the shield pressing into your arm. The Optio calls out, closer! Keep the line straight! Shields level! As you move, the wooden shapes grow larger in your vision, and the odd sensation returns, the instinctive awareness that something stands before you, even if it is not living. Brace, the Optio shouts. You dig your feet into the dirt, lean into your shield, and prepare for impact. Not a real one, but the simulation of one. The Optio walks between the lines. A proper brace stops the push of an enemy line, he says. Your feet must anchor you. Your shoulders must support you. Your shield must take the force. He presses lightly on your shield with the staff. You adjust. He presses again. You hold. Good, he says. Again. You repeat the sequence several times, each time feeling more stable, more grounded, more ready. Controlled striking. When the Optio is satisfied with the bracing drill, he moves to the next stage. Now you will strike, he says. Not wildly, not chaotically, controlled strikes only. He demonstrates with a wooden sword, a clean thrust, precise and compact, not a swing, not a hack, a thrust. Remember, he says, the gladius is for close range. Keep your elbows in. Strike from behind your shield. He steps aside. First line, prepare. You shift your shield slightly, just enough to create room for your sword arm. You bend your knees, you tighten your core. Strike! You thrust the wooden sword forward. The sound of dozens of blades striking wood echoes across the field. Recover! You pull your arm back into guard. Again! Strike. Recover. Again! Strike. Recover. Your arm grows tired quickly. Your wrist starts to ache. Your shield becomes a burden. But you continue. After several rounds, the Optio rotates the rows. Second line, step forward. You move back, letting the next group take position. You watch them thrust, recover, thrust, recover, the same rhythm your own body just endured. The Optio circulates, correcting grip, adjusting elbow angle, tightening shield position. Do not let your shield drop, he warns. Do not lean too far forward. Do not reach. Let the enemy come into your range. Everything he says makes sense. And yet your mind can't help imagining what it would feel like to stand here with a real enemy in front of you. Simulated push. After everyone has taken a turn striking, the Optio announces the final drill. You will now practice the push. This is the part veterans describe with respect and dread. This is where the Legion's power comes from. And this is where recruits learn the truth. Battle is as much about pressure as it is about steel. First and second lines, the Opto says, shields tight. You raise your shield and feel the recruit behind you step close, placing his shield just above yours. The formation tightens until you can feel the breath and warmth of the men beside you. Forward! You move as one, pushing against the wooden enemy line. The wood doesn't push back. Not exactly, but the effect is similar. You feel resistance. You feel the pressure. You feel the claustrophobia of fighting shoulder to shoulder, unable to move freely. The Optio shouts, "More pressure! Shields locked! Feet steady! Push together!" You lean in. Your shield digs into your forearm. Your sword is held tight between body and shield. Your helmet shifts slightly with each movement. It is exhausting. It is suffocating. But it is also strangely empowering. In this moment, you understand the meaning of the Roman line: unity, structure, and strength through closeness. When the Optio finally calls for a halt, every recruit steps back, panting. Some are dripping with sweat. Some lean heavily on their shields. Some look shaken by the closeness of the line. But all of you understand something new. The Optio's final words. The Optio stands before the formation, eyes steady. You felt real pressure today, he says. Not fear, but the beginning of it. The knowledge that standing in the line takes more than strength. He looks across the recruits. You must stay calm when your chest tightens. You must stay focused when your shield grows heavy. You must stay steady when the line presses inward. He taps his staff on the ground. This is what separates a recruit from a legionary. His voice softens, just slightly. Many battles are won in these moments, before blades even touch. The line that holds is the line that survives. He dismisses the formation, and you walk back to camp feeling quieter than usual, not because you're tired, but because today opened a doorway in your mind, a doorway to the reality of combat, a doorway to the responsibility of standing beside others, a doorway to the weight of being part of a unit that must not break. Tonight, you eat slowly, thinking about the drills. You replay the moment your shield pressed forward. You remember the tightness in your chest, but you also remember that you held your ground. And as you drift into sleep, one thought lingers. You took your first step toward becoming a real legionary today. The line didn't break, and neither did you. You've survived marches, drills, weather, shield walls, and early battlefield simulations. You've learned to build roads, maintain gear, and treat your aching muscles. But there is one part of legionary life that no amount of physical training can prepare you for: standing guard in the quiet, unforgiving hours of the night. Night watch is not glamorous. It is not heroic. It is not even particularly exciting. But it is one of the most important duties in the entire Roman army. And tonight, the responsibility falls on you. Evening in camp. As the sun sinks below the horizon, the camp shifts into its nightly routine. Fires crackle in cooking pits, sending thin trails of smoke into the air. Soldiers sit on low stools, cleaning weapons or mending straps. Others chat quietly over their evening meals, enjoying the brief calm before night fully settles. Your contubernium gathers around a small fire, eating bread, porridge, olives, and the occasional dried fruit. No one talks much. Everyone is tired from the day's intense formation work. Your muscles still hum with the memory of pressing forward against the wooden enemy line. One of your tent mates looks at you with sympathy. "You're on first watch tonight, right?" You nod. He grimaces in that way all recruits do when imagining standing outside in the cold instead of lying on a warm cot. "Keep your ears open," he says. "Everything sounds louder at night." You believe him. The darkness has a way of exaggerating every noise, turning ordinary sounds into questions your brain isn't sure how to answer. After finishing your meal, you clean your bowl, tighten your sandals, and gather your gear. Your shield rests beside your pack, and your helmet hangs from a wooden peg. You grab both, knowing the Optio expects full equipment even on routine watch duty. As you walk toward the edge of camp, you feel the cool air settling in. The sky darkens to a deep blue, scattered with stars. The palisade wall, built by your own hands earlier in training, stands tall and sturdy. The air smells faintly of pine, earth, and smoke. This is the calmest the camp ever gets, and it's your job to protect it. The Optio's instructions. At the watch post, several recruits gather. The Optio arrives a moment later, holding a small lantern that flickers in the breeze. "You stand watch for 2 hours," he says. "Not 1. Not 1 hour and 10 minutes. 2. He paces slowly in front of the group. "You will remain awake. You will remain alert. You will not leave your post without permission. If you hear something, you do not panic. You observe, you think, and then you act." He stops walking and looks each of you in the eyes, one by one. A sleeping soldier risks the entire camp. A distracted soldier risks the entire camp. When others rest, you take their safety into your hands. The seriousness of his tone sends a small chill down your neck. When he turns to you specifically, he adds, "Stay focused. Night plays tricks on the mind. Trust your training, not your imagination." You nod firmly. He dismisses everyone except the first watch group. Take your positions. At the palisade wall. Your post sits at the northern edge of the camp, facing a patch of open land dotted with low trees and shrubs. The moon hangs overhead, casting long shadows across the ground. A light breeze rustles the grass, creating patterns that move in the darkness. You climb the small platform at the base of the palisade, resting your shield at your side and settling into stance. Standing still is surprisingly challenging when your muscles want nothing more than to relax. Within minutes, the camp behind you quiets. Most soldiers return to their tents. Fires dim, voices soften. The entire world seems to slow down. You're alone with your thoughts now. Your breathing becomes your companion. Your heartbeat becomes the rhythm of the night. Your eyes adjust to the darkness, sharpening every shape and outline. Time passes slowly. A few minutes feel like an hour. An hour feels like a lifetime. The sounds of the night. As you stand guard, the night begins revealing its voice. You hear the wind brushing against the wooden stakes of the palisade. You hear distant birds shifting in their nests. You hear small animals moving in the grass near the camp perimeter. Every sound is small, but in the quiet, each one feels significant. Then you hear something larger. A rustle, a crack of a twig, a faint shuffle. Your muscles tense instantly. You grip your shield. Your eyes scan the darkness. You lean forward slightly, listening with every nerve in your body. Then, after a moment, you see it, a wild boar trotting across the field, sniffing the ground. Not a threat, just a stubborn animal making its rounds. You sigh softly, relieved, but aware now of how quickly your heart can respond. Night watch nerves are real, and they're no joke. Loneliness and vigilance. Standing alone in the dark gives you time to think, maybe too much time. Your mind cycles through everything you've learned during training, holding formations, enduring marches, building camps, treating injuries, striking the wooden enemy line, and now protecting the camp itself. You feel the weight of responsibility settle on your shoulders. It isn't heavy like a shield or a pack. It's quieter, but deeper. The silence makes you aware of every thought, every movement, every sound. Somewhere behind you, a tent flap moves in the breeze. Far in the distance, a dog barks. You shift your weight from one foot to the other, trying to keep your legs warm and your mind sharp. You remember the Optio's words. Trust your training, not your imagination. You repeat the line internally, anchoring yourself back to calm. The shadow at the edge of sight. About an hour into your shift, something catches your eye. A flicker of movement near the tree line. It's faint, quick, almost like a shadow slipping between branches. Your pulse jumps. You narrow your eyes. You grip your shield. You bend your knees slightly, ready for anything. For a few tense moments, you watch the area intensely. Nothing moves. Nothing shifts. The shadows sit still again. You wonder if it was an animal, or the wind, or simply your eyes playing tricks on you. Either way, you remain alert, scanning the shadows for several long minutes. The fear rises softly, then fades. You control your breathing. You settle your stance again. After another moment, the Optio appears from behind the tents, making silent rounds to ensure the watch remains disciplined. He approaches your post. Report, he says quietly. You give a simple summary. Movement in the trees, 1 moment only, no further sound. The Optio studies the distance, then nods. Good, you noticed it, you stayed calm. He glances at you. That's what a legionary does. He moves on. That's what a legionary does. He moves on. You feel a small surge of pride, a quiet confidence growing inside you. The night may play tricks on your senses, but you stayed steady. The final hour. The second hour is easier. Your ears have adjusted. Your mind has settled. Your heartbeat no longer leaps at every sound. The moon shifts slowly across the sky, casting new patterns of light over the camp. A cool breeze flows through the wooden stakes of the palisade, making a soft whistling sound. And somewhere in the distance, a small owl hoots, a rhythmic, calming echo in the night. Your feet ache slightly from standing. Your shoulders grow tired from holding your shield ready, but there is also a sense of clarity that only Night Watch can create. You are the guard. You are the lookout. You are the reason the camp rests safely in silence. You stay alert until the exact moment the watch rotation arrives. When 2 fresh recruits approach with torches, you exhale slowly. Your shift is done, one says. You nod, gather your shield, and step down from the platform. Your legs feel heavy, but your mind feels oddly clear. You walk back toward the tent area, seeing the camp with new eyes. Every tent, every tool, every soldier sleeping peacefully, because someone stood watch for them. Because you stood watch. Back in the tent. When you return to your contubernium, the others sleep soundly. Their slow breathing fills the tent with a soft rhythm. You slip into your cot, letting the warmth of your blanket sink into your tired muscles. Your eyes grow heavy, but your mind lingers on the experience. Night Watch is not about fighting. It's not about building roads or enduring marches. It's not even about surviving drills. It's about developing quiet courage, the kind that exists only when no one else is watching. As you settle in, the Optio's earlier words echo again. When others rest, you protect them. Tonight, you lived up to that duty, and for the first time, you begin to understand what it truly means to be part of the Roman army. You wake before dawn to the faint hum of voices and the distant clatter of activity outside your tent. It's not frantic noise, but it's also not normal morning routine. There's a different energy in the air, something sharper, something that rings with purpose. You sit up slowly, feeling the familiar stiffness of muscles that have spent days marching, lifting, digging, bracing, and learning. The ache is still there, but it's no longer surprising. It feels almost like part of you, woven into your body the same way the straps of your sandals weave across your feet. You step outside and see the rest of your contubernium already gathering, adjusting their gear in the dim morning light. The sky is still a muted gray, waiting for the sun to rise. The air is cool and carries the scent of fresh dew mixed with last night's cooking fires. It's a strangely calm moment, but no one looks relaxed. Everyone senses that today will be different. The Optio stands in the center of the camp, hands folded behind his back, watching the recruits assemble with an expression that is serious but not severe. He waits until everyone is present before speaking. Today, he begins, you finish what you started. No one moves. No one whispers. Every recruit stands straighter. You have marched farther than you thought possible. You have built roads, raised walls, dug trenches, and endured weather that would break weaker men. You have held your shield until your arms burned. You have stood in the line. You have felt pressure from the formation behind you. You have confronted fear in the dark. He steps closer, his boots moving quietly over the dirt. And now you will put all of it together. The recruits exchange glances. You feel your heart beat a little faster, but you keep your breathing steady. You know this moment has been building for days, the point where training stops being a collection of separate tasks and becomes something unified. The Optio signals for everyone to gather their full equipment. You return to your tent and prepare yourself with slow, deliberate motions. The weight of the breastplate on your chest feels familiar now. The shield feels like an extension of your arm. Even the sword at your hip rests in its usual spot, the slight pressure against your side, comforting rather than distracting. When you return to the field, the Optio has arranged the training area into something larger, more complex. Wooden enemy targets line one side. A long path has been cleared through the grass. Markers on the ground indicate formations and stopping points. It looks almost like a miniature battlefield, shaped from simple training materials, but still carrying the unmistakable tension of something important. Today, the Optio says, you will perform a full tactical exercise: marching, maneuvering, shield formations, line bracing, controlled strikes, advancement and retreat, communication in formation, and maintaining discipline through all of it. You swallow. This is the closest you will get to a real battlefield before you ever face one. He raises his vine staff. Fall in. Your contubernium snaps into place. The rest of the recruits form ranks beside you. The formation stretches wide across the training ground, every shield gleaming faintly in the early light. The sky brightens into soft gold as the sun finally begins to rise. The Optio speaks again. You will follow commands quickly. You will keep your spacing. You will stay shoulder to shoulder. You will trust the man beside you. And above all, you will not break formation. His eyes pass over the line, making sure every recruit understands. Then he steps aside. Advance. You begin to march, feet hitting the ground with steady rhythm. The sound spreads through the formation like a single heartbeat. Every movement feels purposeful. You move forward in perfect lines, adjusting as needed to maintain alignment. Double time. Your legs respond without hesitation. Dust rises behind you as the pace increases. You feel your breathing deepen, but your mind stays focused. The Optio calls out turning commands, and the line adjusts smoothly, curving to the left and right like a single organism. When the march finally slows, the Optio yells, "Form the line!" Shields rise. Boots dig into the dirt. You tighten your grip. The wooden enemy silhouettes stand ahead of you. Advance. The formation pushes forward with controlled steps. Your shield faces forward, angled slightly inward. Your shoulder supports the weight. You close in until the wooden enemy figures loom close. Brace. You plant your feet firmly. The pressure of the formation behind you strengthens your stance. The line becomes solid, immovable, like a wall of living shields. Strike. You thrust your sword forward, connecting with the wooden target. The impact travels up your arm, but your stance holds firm. The entire line strikes at once, creating a loud, rhythmic sound of wood meeting wood. Recover. Your shield returns to position. Again. Strike. Recover. Strike. Recover. You feel sweat forming on your forehead. Your arm grows warm, then tired, then sore, but not weak. Your training has brought you to this moment. The Optio gives new orders. Second line, forward. The first line shifts aside. You move back seamlessly as the second line rotates forward to strike. The motion feels smoother than ever before. Every recruit anticipates the movement, making the change nearly fluid. Third line, advance. The final line cycles forward, taking position and repeating the drill with precision. The Optio calls for a halt. Reform. The lines snap back into place as if pulled by invisible threads. You feel a sense of unity, something deeper than teamwork, a sense of belonging. Next comes the shield wall. Tighten. Shields overlap, edges press together. You can feel the warmth of your fellow soldiers beside you. They're breathing close, their discipline solid. Push. The line moves forward again, shield against shield, step by steady step. It is slow, heavy work, but it's effective. You learn how to move as one body, guided by pressure and shared purpose. Hold. You stop instantly, feet braced, shield firm. The Optio watches carefully. Retreat in order. This test is harder than advancing. Retreating requires balance, coordination, and trust. You move backward slowly, keeping your shield angled toward the imaginary threat. You don't turn, you don't break. You move with the line, step after step. When the Optio finally lowers his staff, you feel the tension ease. But the drill isn't finished. He lifts his hand again. Final test, he says. The recruits straighten, knowing this is important. You will march as a unit across the field. Hold formation, brace, strike, retreat, reset, and complete a full rotation without breaking once. Silence falls around you. This is the biggest challenge yet. He gives the signal. Begin. The formation moves. Your feet follow. Your shield holds steady. The pace quickens, slows, tightens, shifts. Commands come rapidly now. Advance. Halt. Turn. Brace. Strike. Recover. Push. Hold. Retreat. Reform. Advance again. The sequence becomes a blur of movement and focus. You don't think, you react. You don't guess, you know the rhythm. Every lesson from every day comes together. Your shield drills, your marching endurance, your night watch awareness, your medicine lessons, your road building teamwork, your formation precision. Everything merges into one. Your muscles burn. Your breathing grows loud. Sweat trickles into your eyes. But you do not fall out of formation. No one does. The line holds strong. When the Optio finally calls the last halt, the recruits remain frozen in stance, shields raised, discipline unbroken. He steps forward, studying the formation quietly. You are not finished soldiers, he says calmly, but you are no longer beginners. His tone softens slightly, almost imperceptibly. You have learned to endure the burdens of the Legion. You have learned discipline, cooperation, and resilience. You stood the line today, not perfectly, but with strength. He lowers his staff. Dismissed. The formation relaxes at once. Breaths come out in waves. Some recruits smile for the first time in days. Others simply bend forward, resting hands on knees. grateful that the test is complete. You return to your tent slowly, feeling the comforting heaviness of exhaustion. Your legs are tired, your arms ache, your shoulders feel bruised from hours of holding your shield, but your spirit is steady. Tonight, you sit with your contubernium, sharing a simple meal as the sun sets behind the trees. The air is warm, the fire crackles softly. Someone jokes about how they nearly dropped their shield during the final push. Someone else laughs at how crooked their strike was. It feels good. It feels earned. Later, lying on your cot, you let the quiet of the camp wash over you. You think about the first day, how heavy the armor felt, how far the marches seemed, how confusing the drills were. And now, after everything, you understand why the Legion trains the way it does. Not to make you perfect, but to make you capable. Not to create heroes, but to build unity, endurance, and strength. You close your eyes, feeling the warmth of the blanket and the slow beat of your heart. You wouldn't last a day as a Roman legionary, not without the training, the discipline, and the relentless routine that shaped you over these long, exhausting days. But now, lying in the quiet, you realize something important. You didn't just last a day. You lasted all of them. And you are still here. And that, in the Roman army, is victory enough.